There we go. I think we're live.
Seems to be hard to
Yes,
tell.
yes.
Oh,
All
wonderful.
all live streams must start the same way. Must always be us questioning whether we're live. Hello everyone, welcome to a slightly belated, but we made it, the season 2 finale discussion. I'm Fantasy Haven. I'm here with, say your name.
Quinn the GM.
There he is,
Hello, it's me.
the one and only Quinn the GM, and we're going to be discussing the fiery finale, the epic battle that was episode 8.
I think the biggest battle was on Twitter.
The biggest battle was either on Twitter or in the mud in Tyrosh.
Oh, true. Those scenes were better than they had any right to be. Those were incredible.
I feel like mud wrestling kind of describes Twitter anyway. But before we
That's great.
start, because we want some people to come in, a few reminders. A, like the video, help it spread. B, subscribe to Quinn the GM, because he's a legend. C, no spoilers up until the spoiler section. So at the end, we'll dive into book stuff, but not at the start. There'll be a slide that explains that, as with all the other live streams. And D, are we on D? We're on D or 4, I can't remember. I think we're on D. D, I do have to say, I've got a splitting headache right now, Quinn. Obviously, I'll be here for the whole
Oh, I
live
had one
stream.
earlier today.
You had one earlier. How did you get yours?
It's been weird. Like late, I think I've been editing like in too much of marathon sessions, and I keep like whenever I stand up, I keep getting these painful head rushes. But it's feeling
Oh,
better
shit, man.
now, luckily. But hopefully
Make,
that doesn't come back.
make sure you get some water, man. Stay hydrated.
Yeah.
You know how I got my headache?
Hmm.
Long story short, I was rapping and then I swung my head around and cracked it against an open door, and now I have a massive lump. We don't need to get into the
What were you rapping?
specifics. We don't need to get into the specifics. Let's start the live stream. Okay, hello. I think
Of course.
there's enough people here. Let us begin. So, House of Dragon episode 8. Oh, yeah. Someone just sent in a super chat, so a reminder to everyone. It helps support the channel. If you want to send in a super chat or a Streamlabs donation, that's in the description. That means that it goes directly to me. YouTube doesn't take a cut. You can send in questions, theories, anything like that, and we'll answer it, but we'll answer it at the end. We have a special slide for super chats and donations at the very end of the stream. They will all be answered, don't you worry. But before we go on to the first slide, what are your overall thoughts on the episode?
I think it was an excellent episode 8. I resent HBO for making this the finale. I think that like I've definitely got a few issues with it, which I'll get to in turn. My biggest issue was I think I've kind of been coming around on it as the week's gone on. I still think it's a little bit of an issue, but not as bad as I thought. But overall, I would say like if this weren't the finale, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. As the season stands, I'd probably give it like an 8 or a 7.5 for a few reasons that I'll get into.
I think that's pretty generous. I think this episode would be for me this would be like I think it would be an 8 or what was my score? I literally wrote down my score. I can't remember. I think this episode would be an 8 in a vacuum, like as an episode 8 of a 10 episode season, an 8 or a 7. But I think it being in the context of it being a finale, it goes down to 6 for me because it fundamentally fails as a finale. And just to clarify, before we go into ripping apart some parts of this episode, we know that HBO interfered. 10 episodes had been written. HBO cut out the last 2 episodes before filming, and the writer's strike was looming, so the writers didn't want to do any major changes in terms of restructuring, because if that gets caught halfway through, they're fucked. So they stuck with what they had. Then the writer's strike did hit. They did the filming, and when you film these big TV shows, usually you're writing as you film, right? So you change dialogue on the fly, you rewrite scenes, etc. So it was all, they were unable to do that, right? So they had 10 episode season, suddenly cut down to 8. They had a couple months to quickly rewrite some stuff, and then the strike hit and they weren't able to change anything during filming. And those two things are obviously super important and need to be taken into account in terms of why certain aspects of the season and this episode in particular feel off. But that's not to excuse other parts of the episode that are like, just feels like bad writing. Just feels like the writers doing odd things.
It's a tricky line to walk because I feel like I don't know. I did really like a lot of this episode, and a lot of why I would rate this so poorly is kind of on HBO, so it kind of gives me pause to rate it as such. But also, like, it is important to note in like your description of like how everything played out. It took them, I think they said 8 months to write the entire season, and then a month before filming, they were told that they had to cut it from 8 episodes to 10, with those strikes looming, like you said. So
Yeah.
it's really just kind of a bizarre situation that
Basically,
hopefully HBO remedies with season 3, though it's unclear if they will.
I mean, season 3, we know it's going to be 8 episodes, right? But it's going to be.
No, we do not know that.
I think that's been confirmed, unless I'm
It
going.
is not. What was said
Ah,
was Condell in an interview this week said that he has not yet talked about it with HBO because the season is still being written.
okay.
The assumption was that it would be similar to this season, but it's unclear if the cuts here were specifically because of the strike, if they were for cost-cutting reasons, and I think given the reaction to this, I would understand if HBO maybe has pause and in an official conversation with Condell might bump it back to 10, but I don't know.
My
10 would be my highest hope.
my guess is it will be 8, but at least it will be 8 mandated while they are writing and not after they're writing and just about to film. So that means they'll be able to structure and pace things better, and yeah, allocate the budget to smarter things, etc., etc. So yeah, it's a very messy situation. It's not entirely the writer's fault, but we also do have to acknowledge that certain scenes, like, they're not great. So yeah, I think we should dive into the episode. I know that there's one particular scene you hate, and there's one particular scene I hate, and they are different scenes. So it'll be fun to dive into that, honestly.
It will, and I've grown a dislike of another scene, which I'll get to. But
Interesting. Wait, hold on. Is this working? Yes, it's working. Sorry for the Boomer Haven strikes again. I apologize. There we go. My God. Oh, I think I went back and forth. Okay, so we open up the episode in, I believe, Tyrosh. I don't know if it's explicitly stated where he's in, but he's negotiating with the triarchy. So it's one of the three cities. It's either Lys, Mir, or Tyrosh. And we see Tyland Lannister sort of doing the whole fish out of water routine, right? Where he's too hot. It's like, take off that giant red cloak you have and you might not be sweating so much. And we're introduced to Admiral Shrako Lohar, played by Abigail Thorne. Now, Shrako Lohar in Fire and Blood is basically a non-character. He is just the admiral of the Triarchy Navy at this point. And so what they appear to have done is merged the concept of Admiral Lohar with a later character called Ricalio Rindoon, who is a lot more sort of eccentric and androgynous and so on. And so hence we have an eccentric, over-the-top version of Shrako Lohar. So yeah, what did you think of? Again, I'm gonna. You, God damn it! Why? Oh, that took me
it's
too
Tywin.
long. That took me 1 second too long. Because
I really enjoyed this.
Yes.
I think that Jefferson Hall is just fully killing it, playing both roles as Jason and Tyland, and it's really fun because we have seen Tyland as this kind of generally very uptight person, and to see him completely out of his element is just so neat. Because I think at least when we've looked at like Lannisters in Ice and Fire, that's sort of when they're at their best, at least in my eyes. Like Jaime doesn't really start to develop as a character, at least in the show, until he loses his hand, and Tyrion develops a lot in Dance, in Exile, and Cersei develops after Walk of Shame. It's been pretty fun to see, and I think that Tyland is kind of beginning to walk that path, but book readers know that might go a little differently, and I do think that having him be the one to give up the Stepstones is kind of fun, given that I think, his first appearance was talking about the Stepstones in episode 3?
It was, yes, it was during the feast, yeah.
Yeah. I quite liked it, and I think that Philosophy Tube did a great job.
I think we might have a small disagreement there. I was slightly underwhelmed by her performance. Personally, I think it felt to me like, because I'm aware that she's a theatre actress, but it felt to me like a sort of, it had theatre-y vibes. It had a bit too much of playing to a theatre audience as opposed to a camera. It felt kind of out of place. I get that it's an eccentric character, but it felt a bit, it felt slightly off and almost slightly modern. There's also something quite modern about her face. It might be the fucking shiny veneers, but it felt a bit. It wasn't terrible. It was fine, but it felt a bit like, I don't know. I think odd casting for me personally.
I thought it was good insofar as like this character is kind of supposed to be eccentric from the two characters that were combined into them, and I also think that like I don't know, being in a foreign land that we've never seen before on screen, I do like that they've kind of brought out something that is very different in terms of performances compared to what we've seen before. So I kind of like that it was a little over the top.
I'd say the two things I dislike the most, I'd say, is one, the really what I assume was like a deliberate nod to her YouTube channel, by asking if Tyland was a poet or a philosopher.
I didn't catch that. That is a little questionable.
That was a bit cringe. And then the second thing is what I was complaining about before the season started, which is there better not be any triarchy people with an English accent. I can't be doing it. I can't be having foreigners from Essos having a Westeros English accent. It bugs me so much. I know no one cares about. Sorry, we have to do accent corner every single week and then everyone falls asleep. But I hate how you have the three triarchy representatives talking and they have vaguely foreign accents, and then Shrako comes in with just an English accent. It's like, no, you're meant to be Lyseni, goddammit. Yeah, well, 0 out of 10.
I think if we're talking about accents, anything bad here is completely and fully washed out by Irish Dunk in the promo.
You know what? You have a point.
I have an excellent point. That's the best possible choice they could have made.
I didn't expect it. I know the actor's Irish, but I assumed that he was just going to do a kind of...
He's going to do an English... No, I'm pumped. My family's Irish, so I'm
Duncan at all. Fucking hell. I was like, oh, let's go. That will be the second ever Irish accent in the entirety of Game of Thrones. The first being Rickard Karstark in Season 1. The cameo in Season 1 when he's played by a different actor. No other Irish accent has appeared. So that's... Welcome... Yeah, thanks for coming to...
Welcome back, Rickard Karstark.
Welcome back. This was Accent Corner with Lord Haven and Quinn the GM. Irish representation. Yeah. But long story short, I can't believe HBO forced me to watch a fucking breadtuber and pay for it. God damn it. Oh, speaking of the triarchy, I decided... I wrote down what I think we were being told visually. If you go into the next slide.
I agree with your assessment here.
Yeah, because the Lyseni guy had... like silvery hair coming down, and the City of Lys generally they tend to look like Valyrians. The Tyroshi are known for dyeing their beards, boom, blue beard, blue hair, and then by process of elimination that means the guy on the right was from Myr. So I like, again, it wasn't called attention to via dialogue, but I like the attention to detail visually. I was like, yes, that's who. I don't know if they're meant to be the leaders, like the Archon of Tyrosh, etc., or whether it's just representatives or whatever. But I liked it. Lots of people didn't like these scenes, by the way, the Tyroshi scenes. I was fine with them. I enjoyed them.
I did too, and I think it's a great way to, like, I don't know, we don't see much of Essos in this story in general, and, like, with how truncated, like, much of Dance was in the adaptation, we missed, like, Quentin, John Connington, and Tyrion all traveling throughout Essos. So to actually, like, get to see a little bit of those cultures, especially see like visual representations of things like the dyed hair and beards that we didn't see in the main series. It's just such a nice touch, and I'm a big fan of it. It's like a nice little bit of flavor to this episode and series that really doesn't have much time for it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do appreciate. I do appreciate all that stuff. That was something I was going to say. Anyway, I've moved on to the next slide. What was I going to say? The triarchy, Tyler's negotiating. I can't remember. The monkey walked in. The monkey was cool. I like monkeys.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I like the little monkey. Oh, I think I was going to say, I understand that people who went into this expecting the finale to be a big budget moment, like checking their watches, being like, why do we keep having these long triarchy scenes? Like, I understand why that would have pissed people off, but in a vacuum, I thought the scenes were quite good. But moving on to this next bit, this is a moment I dislike. So we go immediately from a scene I liked to a scene I disliked. The burning of Sharp Point. And I put question mark, and we'll talk about the question mark in a second. But straight off the bat, personally,
I know the question mark.
You know what it is. But straight off the bat, this needed to be built up more significantly than it was. Do I believe that Aemond would burn an entire town like this? Of course I do. I think that makes sense for his character trajectory. Thank you, Jaime Lannister. But do I think that process needed to be shown on screen? Yes, because we're going from accidental kinslayer to deliberate attempted kinslayer, jumping all the way to season 8 Daenerys. And it's like, okay, it makes more sense than season 8 Daenerys, but I needed at least one scene before where he decides to do this. Yeah, thanks for the picture. I needed one more scene. Because otherwise...
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Because I was like, oh, whoa, okay, are we just... He's now done that, right? He is now burned an entire town. Obviously, it's not as big as King's Landing, but he is... They said thousands dead, didn't they? They said thousands dead and missing?
I don't know if they said an exact number. I think it was like thousands like injured or missing.
But that's wild. That's like a big step for this character. Like, I feel like we needed more time there. That took me by surprise. Yeah, so I think we should address the lore controversy here, which is that Ryan Condal stated inside the episode that the castle and town that was burnt was called Sharp Point, which he claimed was the seat of House Massey, and Lord Gorman Massey is the guy on Rhaenyra's council who was, Your Grace, it's out of the question. He's the Lyseni orgy guy, right? He's the short, portly man. And because he's on the council, Aemond decided to punish House Massey by burning Sharp Point. But if you look on the map that's on screen, the house with the swirls on it, the 3 runic swirls, that's House Massey, and they're from Stone Dance. Sharp Point is owned by House Bar Emmon, whose sigil is a blue swordfish on a silver net. So, what's going on there, Quinn? What's happening?
I think that Aemond isn't very good at geography. I mean, he kind of forgot about House Massey's real seat.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, House Bar Emmon is also, I think it has been stated. Excuse me. House Bar Emmon has been stated to be on Team Black. So him burning Sharp Point still makes sense. It's just weird to me that Ryan Condal would make.
I think it was
such an
if anything.
obvious
I think
mistake.
it was probably Condal just like mixing it up in the after the episode, because like looking at the actual geography here, I could see Aemond turning around from Dragonstone and then Sharp Point being on his way back. So maybe he just burns it on his way back to King's Landing from Dragonstone.
That, for me, that makes that scene better for me in retrospect. Because my thinking was he comes back to King's Landing, he broods, and then he flies back and lashes out. But if he's flying from Dragonstone in humiliation and fear, and then while he flies overhead, he's like, fuck this, Dracarys, and he does it in rage. That makes more sense to me. We should have seen that, or if we didn't have the budget for it, at least a line of dialogue being like, Aemond burned it while retreating from Dragonstone. I needed that one line, and it would have improved it.
Agreed.
Everyone in the chat is like, the episode is now completely unwatchable because of this inaccuracy.
They're right.
Outrageous of Ryan Condal to make a mistake during his 3-hour inside the episode marathon where he probably has to talk about every single episode in front of a camera. So moving on, we have a pretty goated scene. As
I love this scene,
as all the scenes with Aegon and Larys have been so far. The Realm's Delight, Aegon Targaryen. Do you want to take the charge on this one?
Yeah, I loved this line in particular that you've highlighted, the Realm's Delight, and it makes me sad because I wish in season 1 we'd had at least some scene between Aegon and Rhaenyra as siblings before all of this. I think that's a whole layer of this tragedy that's just kind of erased entirely, because you can kind of just forget that, like, they're half brother and half sister. They are very closely related. And Aegon here is very clearly thinking about his sister. Rhaenyra, when she was young, was called the Realm's Delight. Everyone loved her. She was always at court. She was her father's cupbearer, and he never really had that. He's kind of a piece of shit. He's very much a piece of shit, but he still wanted people to love him like Rhaenyra did. And I think that, or like people loved Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra did not particularly love him, I don't think, but I quite like this scene. I appreciate the sausages you've placed so caringly in the bottom right corner.
In tribute.
And that puts to rest some questions about Maelor.
Yes, it certainly does. Maelor the Missing will remain ever missing, as I predicted.
Unless.
No, unless.
Unless.
No Maelor theories. Not allowed. Not allowed.
Rickard Thorne is Maelor's father. That's why. I'm not going to say it's a spoiler. Never mind.
Ridiculous. Someone in the chat said episode 9 tarnished Aegon unnecessarily. In response to that, I want to say I think I agree. I've complained numerous times about Aegon's treatment in episode 9.
The thing that
However,
you guys are talking about is in episode 8, not 9.
Episode 8, apologies. Yes, episode 8, thank you. It was 8 and 9. 8 and 9. Because the fighting pit thing for me was actually worse than the episode 8 thing, but they both unnecessarily kneecapped his character when they didn't need to. But I think this is a rare instance of a show taking a character they botched, potentially too far, and actually, through the writing and the acting, saved him. They've actually saved... I went into the season being like, I feel like they've kind of already ruined him, but they actually saved him. So I think Aegon might be one of the MVPs of this season. Incredible what they did with him, and especially what Tom Glynn-Carney did with him. I mean, think of the arc. Think back to episode 1 where he's on the throne, like talking to the small folk. And now look at him here. It's like it's what an arc, what an insane arc. It's like two completely different characters, but in the best way possible.
I'm just so excited to see where he goes from here. Because I mean, I know what happens in the book, but to actually see that happen and the journey he's going to go on is going to be just fun.
I mean, I guess we could have a little. No, we want to do a predictions live stream, so I don't know if we want to do a predictions section at the end of this, but they do. Larys does mention that he's transferred some wealth over to Braavos, so I think the implication might be that they're traveling to Braavos to to like a safe house, or am I going crazy?
The implication is that Aegon is going to become a faceless man in Braavos.
I mean, does anyone want to wear his face? I guess no.
He will wear other faces since his is mostly burned away.
That's a good point. He will wear Aemond's face, so he knows what it's like to have a big chin.
Oh, true. What a chin he has.
What a chin. He is... Aegon is lacking in the chin department. He has a nice chin, but it's nowhere near... He didn't get the Daemon genes. He's got the cheeky cleft, but he didn't get the Daemon genes, unfortunately. Also, I've got a really... No. I have a really weird intrusive thought about like sticking a cooked sausage in that like ear hole of his. I just want to wedge it in, give it a spin.
Let's move on.
Okay, next up. So yeah, great scene. And then I decided to put these scenes together in one slide. So this is...
I liked it, yeah.
Yeah, this...
Very Daenerys and A Dance with Dragons, no?
The more she drank.
The more she drank.
I
liked almost all of these scenes, except for one. I have a nitpick here.
Go on.
It strikes me as kind of cowardly to have all of this happen and then Rhaena not claim Sheep Stealer. It strikes me as, oh, we'll go right up to this change we want to make, but we're not going to quite make it in case everybody's upset about Nettles. It leaves too much wiggle room, and I don't like the thought that they could go back on it. Like, at this point, I would much prefer if Nettles were in the show, but I'd prefer it more than them adding Nettles next season if they were to believe in their own ideas and stick to their guns a little bit more. Insofar as, like, I don't know, the Rise of Skywalker kind of a situation where, like, I think people didn't like this. Let's go back on everything and just try to do fan service.
Nothing could be as bad as the Rise of Skywalker, trust me.
You're not wrong about that, but that's just the vibe I've gotten, and I cannot get the rancid taste out.
Do you reckon we're going to get Nettles popping out from behind a rock in the premiere of Season 3? Like, oh, you found my dragon. Hi, I'm Nettles.
Hi, I'm Nettles. How are you?
I see you're on your way to return to the Eyrie. Do you have a more political plot line, like Sansa in A Feast for Crows? Bye. And then she flies off to Dragonstone. I will say I didn't like any of these scenes. They were so, these like weird 15-second snippets that forced their way into the episode, like
it was a little
with no
weird
real segues, and it was weird. It was forced. It came across as almost unfortunately comical because you just suddenly cut to Rhaena like desperately drinking from a river, and you cut away, then you cut back to her like running, and I was just like, okay, this is silly. This feels like something that was quickly shot and like added into the episode last minute because it just doesn't belong. And this is harsh, but it kind of gives me season 6 Kingsmoot vibes in that it feels like something they ran out of time for and like desperately quickly filmed it in like the last week or something.
I would not say it's that bad.
Not in terms of quality, just in terms of feeling tagged on. I will say one positive, which is I do like the spindly, mottled design of Sheep Stealer.
Sheep Stealer's design rules.
Just like a kind of deformed, lonely, wild dragon is kind of cute. And if they do, it's funny, but I kept saying, let's push Nettles Rhaena discussions until the actual claiming, but the claiming hasn't actually happened yet. So we get to wait an entire 2 years before we can dive into that controversial topic. So all I can say is I understand the logic behind merging Rhaena and Nettles. I also understand why people would be pissed off, and I generally don't know what would be better at this point in the story. Not from the start, but at this point, would it be better for Rhaena to just take that plot, or for a random character called Nettles to appear and be like, "Hi, I'm Nettles"? I don't know.
I would, at this point, just commit to Rhaena. I don't know. I miss Nettles. It's sad that Nettles won't be in the show, but, I mean, let's just cut our losses.
For those who haven't read the book, because the first part of this live stream is non-spoiler, I hope you're enjoying us talking about a character you know nothing about. Hell yeah. Moving on to the next slide, we have a loving bond between alleged uncle and nephew.
I think they're cousins?
No, uncle and nephew. Oh, wait, no. Uncle and...
No, they're cousins.
Cousins?
For him to be Jace's uncle, he would have to be Rhaenyra's brother.
Yeah, no, sorry. He's Jace's great uncle.
Oh, sorry. You're thinking he's Balon's son. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's
I don't think he's Balon's son.
I said alleged uncle. I'm not supposed
Sure.
purported great uncle. But what I imagine is his mother told him he has some kind of Targ blood, maybe from his grandfather, and then he decided to exaggerate and be like, "Yeah, I'm literally Balon the Brave son," like to get free drinks. But goes without saying, we have... Oh, Grunkle, thank you very much. We have Grunkle and nephew. So Jace is continuing to be mad at the dragonseeds, which makes perfect sense for his character, as outlined last episode, where he's an angsty teen projecting his own insecurities on a class of people that he's been raised to think are less than him by blood and birth. And on top of that, he's worried about his own legitimacy. He's worried that any random common peasant bastard claiming a dragon means that him being able to ride a dragon is not a good enough defense for him being a legitimate Targaryen son, right? So it makes perfect sense why he's grumpy. And I want to do a mini rant, which is the people who are being like there are so many genuine criticisms to have that when people do illegitimate criticisms, it just pisses me off because it's people being like, "Oh, but Jace came up with this whole plan. He came up with the Dragon Seeds plan. Why is he suddenly the writer's kind of a god?" It's like, no, shut the fuck up. Jace never came up with the idea of giving peasants to the dragons, right? His idea was to find nobles who had fallen out of the Targaryen name, like Steffon Darklyn. Their grandmothers, their great-grandmothers, etc. were married to Targaryens. He wasn't talking about peasants or commoners. He was in the book, but they changed it for the adaptation. So him being... he was fine with Steffon doing it. He's not fine with commoners doing it. He never suggested that. So some people need to look up from their phones when they're watching the fucking episode. Someone's saying, can we spoil here? Or
no, never.
Apologies, sorry. Someone's saying, can we spoil here, or are we on that Alt-Shift X4? I'd say the first part of this live stream is non-spoilers, so don't spoil in the chat, but then we'll have a spoiler section at the end where you can spoil. Sorry, go ahead, Quinn.
Oh, I didn't have much to say. I agree, this is a very fun scene. I like that we're starting to get to see Hugh and Ulf interact, because I want to see more of that, because they are the two people who have the most in common here. So, yeah, no, good scene. I don't have a ton to say about it.
Yeah, I think we'll have more to say about Ulf in the feast scene later on.
I have a lot to say about Ulf in the feast scene.
I'll let you do the talking, because I've been talking a bit there.
Oh, no, you're good.
So, the next slide, we have the Queen Who Never Was. So, we actually have a scene of Corlys and Rhaenyra interacting post-Rook's Rest. The first scene of them interacting one-on-one post-Rook's Rest. Which is absurd. That's absurd. That is a failure of pacing. Like, that is absurd.
Yeah, I will say, actually, since we're talking about it, since we're talking about the Queen Who Never Was, can I talk about the name of this episode, I hate?
You're not a fan?
What the hell is the Queen Who Ever Was? The show of all time, this is.
Yeah, one of the most titles in the history of House of Dragon. You have to admit that.
I think it's my least favorite title ever.
It's one of the titles of all time. Yeah, it is kind of cringe, unfortunately. It is the C word. It's a bit cringe. You know what else is cringe? Corlys renaming the sea snake to the queen who never was. Yeah, I know it's nice, and there's like a bust of not a bust, sorry, a prow. The prow is Rhaenys, although the camera doesn't show it, which is it's annoying watching the.
It should have shown it on
the
camera.
House that Dragons built. Like we gave the weirwood tree George R. Martin's face, and we made a Rhaenys prow, and then like the camera never shows it for some fucking reason. But Corlys,
because George hates the show and doesn't want to be seen on it.
that is true. He demanded that the weirwood face not be shown. But yeah, Corlys renaming the ship, it did make me roll my eyes a bit. I'd be fine if he's like, we have built a new ship and it shall be named after my wife. But like, don't rename the sea snake. The sea snake is the sea snake. Like,
it's iconic.
It's iconic. It feels, and I think it's especially eye rolling just because they botched Rhaenys' character. So it's like an extra level of god, that one moment in season 9 continues to dampen scenes.
Season 9.
Shit, sorry, I was thinking of the Yeetie show in the year 2040, my bad. Right. I was looking ahead of time. I meant season 1, episode 9. Yeah, but this scene was... Okay, do you have anything to say about the scene, actually? Because I have another angry thing. But I think
it was good to see. I think it was a little questionable that Rhaenyra doesn't know Daemon's name.
the phrase, the third brother... is
the third one. She's really taken after Viserys.
Baffling to me. I'm like, why? What? Like, first off, of course she knows his name. But like the phrase, I think it's specifically the third brother. No one says that. No one says the third brother. There are so many names
in this show. I have to forgive her for it. She's been on TikTok. She hasn't been looking at the TV when it's been playing.
She's like, my third brother, Daemon. Oh shit, no. Aemond? No, wait, no, that's the second one. Rhaenys? Oh shit, no. Maegor? Oh fuck, I give up. The third one, fine.
Era.
I'm surprised she knows. I mean, she's like, wait, shit, there's another one?
That was, okay, my biggest issue with this episode is we weren't in Lys and we didn't see Sarah.
Oh, I thought your biggest issue would be the fact that we didn't see Cannibal all season, meaning that I won the bet and you owe me all of your ad revenue.
I think we said we'd never stream again was the agreed upon
We never
price
streamed
there.
together. I think I changed the price every stream. Now it's monetary. Now it's financial. Hell yeah.
But what was your other issue with this scene?
Speaking of financial, if people want to send in a super chat or a Streamlabs donation, I'll be reading them off with Quinn at the end of this live stream. All right, that's enough plugging. My issue was...
I felt like you got like 10 feet closer to the mic for that specifically.
Giving you some Haven ASMR. My issue was that this scene is basically Corlys persuading Rhaenyra to act because they now have more dragons. There's a bit where Rhaenyra basically says, I hoped with more dragons it would be a stronger deterrence, but you're right. Maybe we should strike now. And I was like, are you telling me that the entirety
of... end of last episode, she wasn't thinking about striking?
The entirety of the dragon seed plot, the entirety of episode 7, was her being like, we need a stronger deterrence so that we are not forced to use our... I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Her whole arc this season has been jumping between, we're not going to do anything, we're not going to do anything, oh yes, we must do something now, but we're not going to do anything, oh we'll do something, but we're not going to do anything, and now is war. It's official. And then next episode, she like recoils from that, and then she has a 15th, now it's time for war moment. She has had, I think, like 5 or 6, now I'm being serious, now it's time for war moments since season 1. I'm going insane. I'm baffled. Like, this has to be the right to strike during the season, because they would have cleaned this shit up without question. Like, there's no... So insane. Okay, yeah. Oh my god. Fucking hell. Shall we move on?
I think we shall.
Moving on, we have Alfred Broom sweeping up the mess. But thank you very much. I do Thursdays and weekends.
Did you catch the subtitle thing there?
I did. What did the subtitle say?
It said, what? Traitor on the wind, right?
It did. Someone whispered, traitor. It was
it was not Caraxes.
It was the stormtrooper from Force Awakens.
Oh.
Traitor!
What?
That's just an old meme.
I've not seen The Force Awakens in probably a decade.
There's a whole meme with that one stormtrooper who's like, traitor! And he like...
I forgot about that. Yeah, the guy with the fucking swingy thing.
Yeah, the swingy bat that we never see again was really cool.
Yeah, God.
Lots of Star Wars references today.
Yeah, really. Maybe
Accent
that's a sign.
accent corner styles reference. It better not be a sign. Not for the Westeros verse. Please no. Please no. Yeah. So we have Broom finally arrives in Harrenhal, which is cool, right? Because he rode all the way. So like, no little finger jetpacks here. I appreciate
It was a good use of like he did not teleport. He took his time.
The basically the dragon riding characters teleport, but I can forgive it because they're riding dragons. Thank you very much for the stormtrooper. He rode there, so yeah, it makes sense. Also, he's fucking tall because Daemon's tall.
Oh, he's a big guy.
Alfred Broom is a chungus. He's a unit. So yeah, he's basically he's been sent here by Rhaenyra, who was like, I basically want to kick you off my council because you're a bitch, and also because I want Daemon to answer me. But it was a bad choice to send him because he's basically like, yeah, no, she's fucked up the war, which is true, by the way. He is 100% in the right, but he's like, it should be you doing it because you're a man of action. And Daemon's like, that's treason.
You should be fucking up the war.
Yes, you should be fucking up the war instead. And Daemon's like, well, that's treason, and I'll respond to this treason by not actually punishing you and walking away because I'm still not 100% sure about whether I want to be king or not. He's faltering. He's faltering. The cracks in the dam.
We're approaching my issue.
We're approaching it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Trust me.
We're verging.
We're nearly there. Oh, and also I will say that we had that opening bit where they're like, we're running out of sheep, so we're going to have to start feeding pigs to Craxies. And doesn't Daemon say something like he prefers pork?
He prefers them.
He prefers pigs. It's so fun.
Which also, pork is supposed to be like, it tastes like people, right? Oh. I like that detail for Caraxes.
Oh, of course. Caraxes is like, don't feed me sheep. Ugh, I wanna eat humans. It's like, fine, we'll get you some pigs. It won't be able to tell the difference. So,
speaking of dragons, we have some Dreamfyre discussion, and in the bottom right is a picture of Dreamfyre from season 1, episode 6. The scorned Aemond sneaks into the dragon pit, the lower levels, to try and claim a dragon. Tries to claim Dreamfyre, but Dreamfyre just. Actually, no, I don't know if he tries to claim or if he's just going down there to find one, and then Dreamfyre appears and breathes fire and sends him running. Dreamfyre modelled to look like Daenerys' dragons, interestingly enough. But Helaena rides her, but so far this entire season, there's not been a single discussion about Helaena riding Dreamfyre, because the general consensus is, well, she's not exactly a warrior queen, is she? She's no Visenya, she's no either Rhaenys, whether it's earlier Rhaenys or this Rhaenys, the queen who never was. And so there's no... I do wish there had been some more dragon strategy talk in terms of which sides have who, how many, etc. But yeah, this is our first look at Aemond. Well, no, not our first look, sorry. I really enjoyed this conversation. I thought it was like a really good back and forth between Alicent and Aemond specifically.
Yes, yeah, he's sort of, the cracks are beginning to show even more, and he's like desperate. He's like, fuck, I need Helaena to ride a dragon, and Alicent's just like, no, you're not going to do it. And he stands up to him, and Aemond can't do anything about it. Why do you think he doesn't continue to like? Why do you think he doesn't just push Alicent out of the way and be like, no, Helaena, you are coming to the dragon pit? Why do you think he stands down?
I think it's mostly because of this bond that exists between people and dragons. I think he knows that, like, if Helaena doesn't want to, which she very clearly doesn't, he cannot force her and cannot force Dreamfyre to fight. And it's an interesting book change, because in the books, Helaena is said to love flying, and the reason she doesn't fight in the war, in addition to being a woman and that sort of going against the green cause, is that she's so racked by grief after the death of her son Jaehaerys that she's like unable to collect herself enough to fly, which is obviously a pretty big departure from this characterization here.
Do you think another reason could be that Alicent is so strictly talking down to Aemond, scolding him maybe more ferociously than she has all season, that like he backs down because we know he's kind of got mummy issues, right? So maybe it's a sense of like, you know, I can't stand my ground, I'm going to flee with my tail tucked between my legs, both because of, like you said, the impracticality of forcing a dragon rider to ride a dragon, but also because mummy told me off, so I have to run away and have a cry.
Also, based on the image in the bottom right, it is worth noting that Dreamfyre is the last dragon to knock him on his ass, so
that
maybe
is
there's
true.
a little fear there too.
He's got some PTSD. He's like, God damn it, that's the one who nearly crisped me, nearly roasted me.
His only fear is Dreamfyre specifically.
Every single Aemond pose is an anime pose. Look at him.
I mean, just God, what a man.
He can't just stand normally. He has to have like this epic stance, like he's posing for the camera.
He needs like the McPoyle eye patch from Always Sunny that has like an eye drawn onto
That would
it.
be so fun. The McPoyle eye patch. That would be cool. I imagine he had like a blue eye patch.
Ooh.
Doesn't Euron have
or like a Euron has a like black eye patch, but supposedly has this blood eye underneath that's supposed to be dark magic. Some people think it's like a fucking glass candle or something, which doesn't make sense. He'd die.
No, you don't understand. He can see into the glass candle through.
It's a bag of holding that contains a glass candle.
Exactly. But no. What I was thinking, so I got a bit mixed up. In the Forsaken chapter, I think he's described as wearing a red eye patch. When he comes in the Valyrian steel armor,
right.
Yeah, which is such a badass fucking image, by the way. Valyrian steel armor and a red eye patch.
Good chapter.
Insane, but yeah, Aemond is chased away, and we don't have Rhaena riding Dreamfyre. But I'm glad they addressed it because, of course, he's like, holy shit, Sunfire is dying / dead. Maybe Aegon seems to think he's dead. The Syrian has taken to wing, but he's like a teenage dragon. Dreamfyre is huge. I need him, but Helena's like, nah, I'm good.
Sure.
Moving on, we have another scene that I actually think is very good.
Speaking of spitting hot fire here. Oh, there's some good dialogue here.
Some black-pilled poetry from Criston. He doesn't give a fuck.
I did not expect Criston to have one of my favorite character arcs this season.
I know, right?
Last season, I wasn't 100% sold on him as a character, but like, my God, like this season, we can see him start out like where he was last season, just kind of this douche who's just very kind of self-absorbed and feels wronged by both the world and Rhaenyra specifically. And then we see him kind of take to war and begin to feel like, hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing well. This is what I'm good at. And then Rook's Rest. And it's just, God, I honestly wish we had more Criston this season.
Yeah, I'd say alongside...
I did not expect to say that.
Alongside Aegon, I think one of the best character redemptions. And not in terms of, like, in the universe, like Jamie, I mean meta. I mean, like, writing-wise. Going from a character with... I had serious issues with like, a genuinely cool arc. Also, so the person in the chat who said, you're making excuses for this trash episode. This whole live stream has been us saying scenes we like and scenes we dislike. Sometimes we're agreeing with each other, sometimes we're not. But saying we're making excuses when we're providing a nuanced take on an episode involving criticism and praise, like, what are you listening to? What are you talking
Honestly.
about? Yeah, but
someone in chat asked, how did Gwaine find out? Criston was taking a hell of a sniff of that handkerchief.
Of that used sanitary towel from Alicent.
In front of God and everybody.
Yeah, I think Gwaine already suspected. Like, he had that look when they first met, like the kind of something is going on between you, and it's obvious, but I'm not going to mention it. And then when Criston just sniffs it, he's like, you know what? You're now just blatantly doing it in front of you. You're fucking insulting me. But Criston doesn't give a fuck. He is black-pilled. He's a doomer right now. He's like, we are all going to die. We're all going to die. We're all going to be burned and crushed. A war of dragons means there will be nothing left. All I have left is to march onwards with honor, but even then, honor doesn't exist because we're all flawed humans. I'm fucked. And Gwaine's like, God damn, and just sits down next to him in depression.
He just walks away. Yeah,
I know. He sits down. He sits down next to him and just looks away into the distance, like, fuck, man.
I love their dynamic as well. Like, this is not a dynamic that exists in the book. They don't interact at all because Gwaine is like a city watchman, but man.
Yeah, I thought it was a good scene, and I'm glad that we have Gwaine and Criston together because we know they're marching to Harrenhal, and without spoiling anything, we know in Fire and Blood that Criston marches to Harrenhal, but they're not necessarily with any characters we know, just with his army. So having Gwaine take this role, because he serves a different role in the book, having him take this role means that Criston can actually bounce off of someone. And this, can we just talk about, Gwaine has been great this season. Another great side character.
Oh, I love him.
This season it's an improvement upon season 1 with regards to side characters specifically. Side characters in season 1, I think they were not fleshed out.
Lionel
and Harwin were... Lionel and Harwin were like cardboard cutouts compared to the side characters this season. In season 1...
I loved Lionel. I won't hear any Lionel slander.
No, they were fine, but what I'm saying is in season 1, they weren't fleshed out enough. They weren't interesting enough. They weren't given memorable enough scenes or dialogue. And even in terms of the filmmaking. You'd have these side characters who would speak clearly, so that the audience remembers them, but the camera kept cutting away from them as they spoke, so you couldn't remember who they were, casual viewers at least. This season, it's actually focusing on them and giving them stuff to do. Simon Strong, Gwaine Hightower, fucking Adam and Alan, Ulf, Hugh Hammer, like Oscar Tully, like they're having these one scenes and boom. Like they're really standing out. Yeah. I think Gwaine, and a lot of it is acting, right? Gwaine's actor is bringing so much to the role.
Mentioning Oscar, I wish we'd seen him interact with Rhaenyra this episode.
Oh, that would have been cool. That would have been nice.
That would have been fun.
Wait, he wasn't even in this episode, was he?
No.
Maybe it was past his bedtime.
Probably.
Maybe he was lamenting over the death of his older brother Kermit. No, why would you abandon me? No, I should be the Lord. I should be Lord Kermit. That's how it is in the books. Why am I not in the show? Ryan Condal, why would you do this to me?
Or Kermit.
It's not easy being green. That's enough. There we go. I had to do the last one. I've done it every single live stream. You can see the energy's being sapped from me every time I do the Kermit impression. It's becoming more and more of a burden weighing down. Ever since Glidus did that Dragon Time where he just did a flawless Kermit impression, and I was like, okay, I should just stop doing mine. I should just stop. Anyway, so mud wrestling. We've already talked about how much we like the Tyrosh scenes.
I just enjoyed it. I don't have much else to say.
I guess I have this screenshot.
It was fun to see Tyland actually do something.
I'm glad he won the mud wrestling. I was like, I get that he's being fun comic relief and it's fish out of water and so on, but like, I'm glad that he actually managed to hold his own because
he deserves a win.
I've got this screenshot the screenshot up. My brain's fried. It's scrambled. To basically be like, look how cool the costumes are. Huh? What was that?
I love the costumes.
Yes, the costumes.
Whitest teeth in the world.
Yes.
From fucking Tyland.
Oh hell yeah! Oh look at that, gleaming. But also the hair, the blue/greeny hair in the back. We should. It's so funny how, obviously, Game of Thrones, the original show, took so many risks for TV, right? It's easy to forget that looking back at it retrospectively, but it took so many risks. But if only it had gone beyond. Imagine if we actually got Daario with the blue beard and the gold moustache. Imagine we had Tyroshi mercenaries with green and blue and golden. Oh my god, I knew that was going to be the picture you were loading up. I knew it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is book accurate Daario Naharis. He's not just a boring bearded dude. He's got fucking the 3-pronged blue beard, the blue hair, the gold moustache. This is what George R. R. Martin thinks a sexy man is for women. Peak male performance. Yeah, this is the male gaze of a male from George R. R. Martin. I don't know what that means. Hell yeah. Yeah, not much to say about the scene. Again, I liked all the triarchy scenes, and I really appreciate the costumes and the hair dye and all that stuff. Rest in peace, Daario Naharis. You will be missed. He's not dead or anything. But let's move on to the next slide. We have Jace.
He's going to die in the Battle of Fire.
He's going to what?
I think he's going to die pretty early in the Battle of Fire.
Oh, Daario. This is a bit of a slight tangent, but when I first read the books, I think my most hated character was Daario.
What? He's in like 3 chapters.
I know. Not Joffrey, not Ramsay. Daario pissed me off the most. I think
he's in like 2 in Dance, and then he's in a few in Storm. I did not form much of an impression for me.
He just pisses me off so much. He angers me. There's something about like George likes to write characters who are so sure that they're fucking epic and badass and so full of themselves, but like they're also renowned for seducing underage women, and it's like underage girls, and it's like it's you're not badass, you're a fucking creep. like Daemon, Daario, it's like ugh, prick. I hate him.
Fair.
Dickhead. I hope he dies soon. I didn't hate Joffrey because
he's currently a prisoner of the Yunkai, so he's not looking great.
I went into the series expecting Joffrey to be terrible because there's one of the few things I knew from the pop culture zeitgeist was Joffrey. But because I expected it, I wasn't affected by it. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's a bit of an asshole. But like nothing stood out to me with Joffrey. I didn't hate him in the books. I hated Daario though. Oh my god, that was a tangent. No one cares. Shall we move on? Okay. So, yeah, honestly, Jace saying I'm not pouting might be one of the
made the season for me.
one of the best lines of the
10 out
entire
of 10.
and the funny thing is that the pouting meme wasn't even from season 1. It's like people
No.
So that means that Sarah Hess, who wrote the episode, must have been like, this actor is always pouting, I've got to throw this in. And the bit when he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm reading, and then he turns the page without looking down. He's got such himbo energy.
Oh my god. He's the greatest, and I love him, and I hope we have a million more seasons of Jace.
Live Jace reaction.
God.
What's this picture loading in?
Yeah.
There he is.
It's more mogging.
He's just more mogging. I love how the meme in season 1 was him being slouched, and then the meme in this season, he's now fixed his back.
It's just him being.
But now it's him
an
mogging.
Adonis.
In season 3, he's going to be like, fuck, I need a straight back, and I need to stop pouting. He's going to suck his lips into his mouth.
No, we know what it's going to be in season 3.
Moving on to the next slide. I told you there was going to be a cuck scene, did I not tell you?
Hope.
Another scene that I have won. Another bet that I have won, sorry.
That is not what this is.
Look, listen. Admiral Lahar.
You sound like me talking about wins.
Admiral Lahar openly says, I want you to not just fuck my wives, but get them pregnant. Lahar is the ultimate cuck. Cuck scene. I told you there was going to be a cuck scene this season. It happened.
That was not what you told me. You told me it was going to be Aegon and the Aegoons.
Which is still open, by the way, because Aegon has left King's Landing.
The goalposts.
Aegon has left King's Landing. The Aegoons are being taken to the Night's Watch. They're gonna clash in the middle of the King's Road, and there will be the cuck scene will happen in a barn surrounded by chickens or something.
I love how confused half of chat gets anytime you start referring to this.
Okay, let me just quickly. So the cuck scene.
Oh my god.
No, I'll be quick. I promise you, because I am famously quick when I go on my ADHD tangents. The cuck scene is a theory where, let's just say in the book, without going into too much details, after Aegon's accident, he has trouble getting it up, so he watches his friends and Kingsguard members, etc., have sex with his favourite ladies of the court, and he watches this from behind a curtain while sobbing, right? So he's like trying to have sex by proxy. It's sort of deranged and sad and so on. And so when this show cast characters who aren't in the book, that being his 3 friends, the Aegoons, the drunken Kingsguard, Leon Estamont, Martin Rain, and Red Ned Waters. I was like, well, why else would they cast friends for him if not to recreate the cuck scene? And so I've been saying cuck scene will happen this season, and it hasn't technically happened, but it could happen season 3 because 2 of the Aegoons are still alive. You said cannibal will appear this season. I shot you down. I said cuck scene will appear. This was a cuck scene. The real one will be season 3. You owe me your ad revenue.
No, it's the chat seems to be mostly agreeing in that you're coping.
I've got to stick to the bit. I've memed this prediction so far. I've memed it too much to give up on it. Most people don't know what I'm talking about, but I've memed it too much. No, not down bad. I don't want to see the scene. I don't want to see Aegon like looking at his burnt sausage and then crying.
It sounds like you want to see the scene.
I don't want to see.
Tell us about that.
A burnt crispy man.
Do you feel like Aegon? Is that the
crying in the corner?
That's the
watching...
desire for it.
I'm not having.
Let's do a psychological breakdown on the fantasy haven of this.
Okay,
this theory.
Psychological breakdown. What's it like to have the burden of more subscribers than Quinn the GM? It's tough. It's hard, but I live with it. The divorce papers are coming out again, baby.
I'm glad you have that panic button now.
We finally reconcile, and now, more arguments, more tension. The funny thing is, we have so many viewers now. We don't usually have this many live viewers. Most people here are going to be like, I don't understand any of these in-jokes. Let's move on, shall we? So the next part.
Yes.
What the fuck have you done to this slide? What the hell?
It's 30 little birds.
Ah, very nice.
I counted.
When did you start doing this?
I was a little quiet when you were talking about Corlys and Rhaenyra, and this is why I was counting birds.
You were like, oh, he's talking about a boring scene. Let me just quickly add in some...
No, because you were talking about it. You were like talking for a while, so I just started doing this, and then you like asked me something, and I lost count.
I'm known for hogging the mic somewhat. But yes, we have this scene where there's a cheeky Nando's, and 30 birds. Why 30 birds, Quinn?
Because the fucking greatest behind the scenes clip of all time. If it's, I think I quote tweeted it, so it's on my Twitter if you want to see it. But the actor who plays Ulf, Tom Bennett, every time they did a take for this scene, he ate 2 quail, and they took this scene about 15 times. So he ate about 30 little birds that he was asking about in this scene. It's incredible, and you need to watch the clip.
Yeah. Everyone in the chat, watch it. I have seen it. I saw you retweet that one. You don't. It's funny because when they film these food scenes, usually they don't eat. They just pretend to eat, just because like.
No.
But like he just went to town on these fuck. Why did they have so many?
I have no idea. Why did they? Yeah, they had that many on hand.
They should have just been like pretend to eat them. I don't think we ever see him actually dig in. Like they kick. Oh man. But yeah, I like this scene. This was another good scene. It was.
I agree.
Wild seeing how far Ulf went in terms of, like, a borderline treasonous language. Treasonous in terms, not treasonous, but treasonous in terms of disrespect directly towards a monarch. But the problem is, Rhaenyra's backed into a corner, right? This is a problem of her own making. What is she gonna do if she's like, I'm how dare you speak to me this way? I will take your tongue. Then he'll be like, oh, you're punishing me. Okay, I'm now joining Team Green. Bye. What else does she go? Okay, I will kill you. I will take your head. In which case, okay, she's now down 1 dragon. Like, there's nothing she can do.
Yeah. It is a really interesting situation, and it is fun to see the different dragon seeds and how they react to it. Because, like, I mean, Adam's kind of just trying to prove himself, it seems like. Hugh has just been kind of quiet and trying to make things peaceful. Ulf is testing limits, and it's just really fun to see those dynamics.
Yeah, the distinct dragon seeds riding distinct dragons. Both them and their dragons have obvious personalities, and I really love that. Yeah, it is curious how quiet and reserved Hugh is being, and then Ulf is just like full on, fuck yeah, I'm gonna run my mouth. I'm a drunken raconteur who's known for bullshitting in the tavern, and now I'm actually a dragon rider, so I'm gonna speak my mind. What's that one line he says, where it's like you're behaving unbefitting of a knight, and he's like, knight me then, and it's like, oh, Ulf.
That was such a good line.
Ulfy boy. If he did not ride dragons, he would be beheaded. That would be the end of Ulf.
Yeah.
My God. Yeah.
What a man.
Great scene. I love the food. I can see the food more clearly now than in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful stuff.
How would you rate these little birds?
I want to try some. I'm telling you now.
Do. I've never had quail.
No, me neither. I'm not a medieval monarch. I've never had quail. I'm not a member of the landed gentry.
Oh no. I've moved the slide.
What's on the next slide?
And it's time.
Okay, so I think we have different opinions on this scene. So before you will go first, because this is your rant moment, I will introduce this. So Daemon in Harrenhal, Alice Rivers wakes him up. She appears to be crying. She leads him into Harrenhal, and we see a man with antlers coming out of his head, which people have theorized is meant to be a green man from the Isle of Faces, which I'm sure you can agree that's a cool moment. That's like a cool little weird moment.
Oh, absolutely. Love it.
And then Daemon walks over to the weirwood. There appears to be bloody sap dripping from it. He puts his hand to it, and he is sent into a torpedo of... not a torpedo, a tornado of visions. I was trying to find a cool metaphor. Like, he's torpedoed into a tornado of visions. There we go. You kick it off, Quinn. You kick it off.
So, the visions I don't have a problem with in and of themselves, except for one thing, which I'll get to. But my biggest issue upon first viewing, which has faded a little bit since then, is that this just feels like they kind of spiked Daemon's character arc at the 1 yard line. He's been going through all of these personal visions that have to do with himself and his life story throughout this entire season, essentially reckoning with why he wants power, like the reasoning behind it, what he wants exactly, and whether or not he can support Rhaenyra to be the actual ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. Rather than like ending off on this scene with Viserys from last episode, or having a vision related to that, or we see Viserys actually giving and offering the crown to Daemon, and Daemon seemingly refuses it, we get this scene coming before Daemon reconciles with Rhaenyra. That's my biggest issue. If this scene happened after Rhaenyra and Daemon reconciled, I'd have zero problems with it whatsoever at all, I think it'd be great. But I think that if we're substituting Daemon's personal motivations that we've been building over this entire season with this prophecy that has very little to do with him, it just feels like a misstep in my regard. With that said, I've softened on it since my initial viewing. I think that elements of it really work quite well. I like what it does for Daemon's arc going forward. I think it explains at least one thing that happens in the books very well. I actually had a very good conversation with History of Westeros about that. He talked me into coming around on that. But overall, I think that this was, at least on first watch, the scene I had the biggest issues with. Also, I think Helaena being there doesn't make a ton of sense. As far as we know, the old gods and dragon dreams are fairly disconnected, unless we're saying that Helena's also a green dreamer, or if those are the same thing, which could also be quite interesting. She is, I mean, on Team Green and a dreamer, so I guess if we're going by technicalities, that might work. But those are my very ranty thoughts. What are your thoughts?
I think the implication with Helaena could be that dragon dreamers are basically green seers. It's just a different name for them. Some first men have that blood magic. Maybe the Valyrians have a different kind of blood magic, but it's all maybe kind of interconnected. I'm in two minds about this scene. So on one hand, to satiate the people who don't like it, and there appears to be a lot of them in the chat, I hate the constant connection to the Game of Thrones ending, the Song of Ice and Fire prophecy. It didn't belong in season 1. The fans rebelled, and it's almost like the writers gave two middle fingers and were like, fuck you, I don't care that you don't like it. We're going to double down, and we're going to have a whole ass vision focusing on this prophecy and on Game of Thrones, which I don't want to see. I don't want it in this show. I don't need it in this show. I think if handled poorly... okay, I'll get into that in the second part of what I'm going to say. But yes, I don't like the link to Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire prophecy. I think it doesn't belong here. And I know, I appreciate what you're saying about you have this interesting Daemon arc where like the darkest recesses of his psyche are being visualized and reflected back at him, and he's going through this sort of arc where he is a military man thrust into a cultural quagmire he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand the land. He doesn't understand the politics. He's finally on the back foot. He tries to respond to these political and psychological issues he's having with violence, with the whole Blackwood thing, and that makes everything descend further into chaos. And so it's not, the Harrenhal plot isn't so much it's not really plot progression, because if he just sat there doing nothing for a whole season, Grover would die, Oscar would side with him, nothing will change. It's more of a character thing. And so I enjoyed the visions. Some people didn't like them. I enjoyed the Harrenhal visions. I enjoyed that it was being shown back to him how badly he treats Rhaenyra, how he uses her, how he sees her as an extension of himself, as an extension of Viserys. We look at his lust for the crown and for the throne, and how much of it is like because he wants it or because he was never given it by Viserys, right? We see all this stuff, and we even see like the whole weird mother vision. Even that served some kind of twisted purpose, I think. And then suddenly you have this arc where it's like he's slowly learning to be like, maybe the crown isn't for me. Maybe I need to throw my might behind Rhaenyra, because that's not where he is at the end of season 1. Some people are like, his character is in the same place at the end of season 1. No, the end of season 1, yes, he bows to Rhaenyra, he bends the knee, but he still he bends the knee to her, but he still chokes her. He engages in military matters without her consent on her behalf. He disrespects her publicly. Like, they are not on equal grounds. They're not on a good footing. And then Blood and Cheese sends it over the edge. So this arc was him coming to terms with fully bending the knee and saying, I support you, Rhaenyra, to put you on the throne for you and for Viserys. The crown is not for me. And up until this vision, you can see why it was going that way. Then this vision comes in, and I think instead of viewing it as, why has this suddenly come in and shifted him? Like this was it's more, this is the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Where he was a cracking dam over the course of the season, and this was the final thing that burst the dam and made him go, there's something beyond me. And it's not that he had this vision and suddenly changes his mind, it's that this broke the dam. Like, if he had this vision at the start of the season, it wouldn't change his mind, but now it does because of all the visions he's had previously. And by viewing the war as there's something greater than us, and so I need to sacrifice my own personal vainglory and so on for Rhaenyra, on top of all the other visions before that gave him other excuses for that kind of thing. This is I appreciate that what I'm saying right now is really messy and all over the place, probably because my thoughts still aren't clear about how I feel about this vision. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense at all, but I will say that there are, as much as this scene frustrated me, there are two potential positives that could come out of it. So one is something I'll save for spoilers, and two is if they're going down the route of Daemon and Rhaenyra and Jace believe that they bear the mantle of responsibility for the end of the world, for the apocalypse, for this prophecy, and that the gods are on their side, right? Where with Rhaenyra talking about the gods bringing them Adam and sea smoke and so on. If the Civil War is turning into a kind of messianic cult, Paul Atreides style kind of like, Messiah complex, team Messiah complex versus opportunistic, power-hungry sexists, then it does create an interesting, morally flawed dynamic to this conflict. But if it's being treated as Team Black are good because they want to stop the apocalypse, both Daemon and Rhaenyra want to stop the apocalypse, versus Team Green who are bad because they are nasty sexist men, then that's fucking lame. So it depends on how Season 3 goes down. Are we going to have messianic cultists versus powermongers, or are we going to have good guys versus bad guys? Depends how it goes down. But yeah, I don't know how that was a bit rambly. That wasn't really, yeah. My thoughts are not clear on this, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, it's understandable. It's a complicated scene.
Yeah.
I think there are some spoiler things that this does help. Same with the next scene with Aemond. I think that there are elements of what happens and what these characters do that can be explained by having some sort of supernatural knowledge of something.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I want to say, annoying to say this, but I think Season 3 and Season 4 will determine whether this worked, right? Like, this is a long-term thing. Daemon and Rhaenyra being involved in the idea of a prophecy, are they using it as an excuse to gain power, or are they using it to be the good guys in what could be turned into a white versus black story? I hope it's not the latter. I hope it's the former. We'll have to see. I do think we also need to address Helaena. So you mentioned the whole, what's she doing there? How does it link it? But what do you think about the fact that Helaena appears and basically gives almost like comforting words of wisdom to Daemon, like, this is your part of the story, and then when it cuts to her having had that vision, she kind of gives a little smile almost, and some people have complained, like, why is Helaena acting that way towards the man who ordered the murder of her son, which an event that hasn't been mentioned in quite a few episodes.
Yeah, I've seen people say that the rat catchers have been mentioned more than Jaehaerys was. I thought that was was a little questionable.
The dog has appeared more.
I think that if Elena had the book characterization of her being completely despondent after the death of Jaehaerys, then I'd say this is completely character breaking. But since she has been kind of portrayed of being aloof and above it and just focusing more on these visions, I think that seeing the significance of who Daemon is and what his destiny is, or at least what he has to do, that could kind of counterbalance the scales.
Where it's not like she's on his side or whatever, it's more that she's so ingrained in prophecy and she's so sort of aloof and out there and disconnected from everyone else. She's like, it is just factual. You are part of this story. You have a role to play. I know you're a horrible person who's done horrible things to me, but this is the way the world is. This is how the world works. How I don't know. Yeah.
Elena's also acting a little different, at least in the latter part of this episode, with this vision and then her later conversation with Aemond. She seems more I don't know. She's more willing to be direct with people.
I'll tell you, this is what I wrote in my
verging on some form of just change in the character.
In my script, which I've recorded the audio for, hopefully my quickie/longie, because it's episode 7 and 8 combined, my review coming out tomorrow. In the script, I wrote that Helena's gone from a spacey autistic girl to Dr. Bran Hatton from season 8. Doesn't she give Bran vibes? Slightly.
Not. It is not that bad.
Oh no, not in a critical way. More like the character has suddenly changed and seems a bit more direct and robotic than before. It does seem kind of. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
But I also think that, like, in this case, like, part of what was wrong with Bran doing that was the timing. He becomes a robot in the 10 minutes between season 6 and season 7, not when he spends a year with Bloodraven. I was just watching Clytus's take on, I think it was season 6, episode 2, Home, where he talks about it. It's very good, but I agree with that take insofar as, like, it's okay if a character is going to be depersonalized by magic, or it'll change them or the way they act or function, but it should be because of that magic, not just kind of happening randomly whenever the writers need it to happen.
Yeah, because at the end of season 7, the end of season 6, post Weirwood Net, Bran is fine, and then season 7, he's a new character, and it's like, what happened within that journey? Someone in the chat said, Preston said the show has become irredeemable thoughts. I think that's a massive exaggeration. It's not irredeemable. I think we'll get into it later. I think one character is potentially permanently ruined, but I don't think the show's irredeemable. I think that's classic sort of Preston being
curious to hear. Oh, I think I know what character you're talking about.
Yes, but before we move on, shall we quickly look at each part of this vision? So first off, Bloodraven. It's cool to have Bloodraven. Why isn't he an albino or albino? And why does he have 2 eyes? I can justify it by...
I mean, he could be albino. We don't know. Yeah, that's true. It's hard to tell at this point. And also, like...
Yeah.
I tweeted about, like, oh, they made him more book accurate, but he's not missing an eye, which is interesting. But the common rebuttal I've seen to that, which is interesting and I kind of agree with it, is like Bran can walk in his visions. It would make sense that maybe Bloodraven has both eyes.
Yeah,
Though there's also the argument that, like, if we see him in Dunk and Egg, oh, maybe this is the same actor. Like, yeah, but also in Dunk and Egg, he is going to be missing the eye. I could see them not doing that to not confuse him with Aemond as well, but...
I think they'd have to think the audience is pretty stupid to have a Targaryen in an eye patch and people be like, that must be Aemond. Like,
he doesn't even wear an eye patch. He doesn't.
He doesn't. Like, yeah.
Bald skull.
My thinking is they had to film this very quickly, or you could just interpret it as, it's a vision. Like, it's an interpretation of Bloodraven. This looks like young Bloodraven. Bloodraven in the tree. Like, he joins the Night's Watch in his fucking 60s, basically. So he should be, at the earliest, in his, like, mid to late 60s. He should only have one eye, etc. This is him young with both his eyes. You can just say it's the vision portraying a young Bloodraven. That's fine, because it's not reality, it's a vision. There's that one shot underneath of, like, a bunch of dead dragons in, like, a misty, foggy thing. I don't think that's meant to reference anything specifically. I think that's meant to just be a general... like metaphor for the Dance of the Dragons, right? It's the dying of the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Why young Sheldon? What?
You said young Bloodraven one too many times.
Outrageous. The shot underneath, we have Daemon swimming in water.
Drowning, looks like.
Pogging. He's pogging aggressively. Now, that could be
true.
That could be literal. That could be metaphorical. We don't know because it's a vision. We've got Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne, which is the first time we see this actress on the Iron Throne. We've got top right, we have the meme. We have the White Walker meme.
Yeah.
One of the worst looking White Walkers I've ever fucking seen. It's like that whole shot looks AI generated. I'm so confused.
I don't know. I think you're right that this was probably one of the last things they filmed.
Yeah, and then there's the really cool shot of someone walking through a battle scene and then stepping into water, and then the camera follows them. That was badass. Again, I think, like with the Dead Dragons, I don't think that's a specific battle. I think that's just meant to represent the death of the Civil War. Or maybe it's meant to represent the Long Night. I don't fucking know. Then we have Daenerys with her fireproof hair. Yeah.
I thought she was bald. I was so excited.
I think that would have... If she were bald, that would have full on just been like...
I would have popped off.
It would have been like Game of Thrones is not canon to this show, basically. Like, which they would never do, because HBO would not allow them to.
They should do it, cowards.
They won't. They won't. They never will.
They will.
Okay, so moving on, we have Helena potentially dropping spoilers. Now, I say potentially because obviously we've read the books, right? But it's worth noting that prophecies in A Song of Ice and Fire tend to be...
I have.
Tend to be vague. They tend to be weird, they're not literal. Sometimes they're taken literally at the peril of the person who hears them. Sometimes they are as they seem, and there are attempts to as with Greek tragedy and all that stuff. There are attempts to subvert prophecies that go wrong. There are attempts to let prophecies happen, which goes wrong, etc. So, for anyone worried that Helaena dropped a big spoiler, don't worry about it, because prophecy is a fickle thing. So, but yeah, she does say something. I won't repeat it here, and Aemond is shaken by it. And honestly, it's essentially Helaena exerting some level of, not intentionally, but kind of exerting power over Aemond that he can't quite deal with, because I think he's aware that she is actually a dreamer, and he's like, oh fuck. And of course,
I will say,
yeah,
of the vision I had issues with, but especially in retrospect, I love the kind of, we've often seen Daemon and Aemond framed as very similar. We've seen them do very similar things, but here we see them essentially receive a very similar like stimulus and respond in completely opposite ways. Daemon completely folds the vision, sees this destiny before him, decides to follow his brother's footsteps and heed it and bend the knee to Rhaenyra, whereas Aemond seems to kind of lash out against it. Like, he does not want what Helaena is saying to come to pass. So it seems like they're kind of being set up as someone who's fighting on behalf of destiny and against destiny, which I quite like.
I don't want it. I never have.
I never did.
I never did. I never will. I never would.
Speaking of, next slide.
Next slide. What have we got? You are my queen. That was an unintentional segue. You are my queen. So here we have a suspiciously HD looking picture compared to my dodgy screenshots, because Boom actually took it from an HD promo. Oh, not HD. It's not that good. Anyway, yes, this is, again, this kind of links in with what we talked about, the vision. Daemon bends the knee and is like, there is a higher purpose now. You need to be the one who sits the throne. That's not the only decision, it's all the other visions too, feeding into the idea that the crown isn't for him and that he needs to respect Rhaenyra as a queen in her own right. And yeah, and everyone else bows for her. And Alfred Broom doesn't look happy. Simon Strong,
he just kind of leaves.
Even in like a dodgy episode, Simon Strong is the GOAT. Just like in the background, that little clap he does.
In the background.
He is such a supportive gay uncle of Harrenhal. He's the gay uncle of Harrenhal. He's so fucking, he's so great. Oh man, I
can't see him and not think he's exactly George Martin.
It's when George walked into that Oxford talk, we were all like, that is fucking Simon Strong. Simon just
like, it's a 1-to-1. Come on.
He should play George R. R. Martin in the biopic.
I agree.
Young George, middle-aged George, old George, he just looks the same the whole way through. Okay,
same outfits as Simon.
So moving on, we've talked about a very controversial scene. Now we're going to move on to a scene that I think is actually really good, maybe one of the best of the season. But I've been talking quite a lot, so I'll hand this one over to you.
Yeah, so this was really, really interesting. I think that there's been a lot. I went into this episode expecting Corlys to name Alyn his heir, and I realize now that that was not like... That was obviously the much worse expectation to have. Like, this is so much more interesting and makes so much more sense for the character. We've seen Alyn be so restrained this entire season. It was always Adam, his brother, who's speaking out against Corlys and like saying, oh, he ignores us all the time. He doesn't want anything to do with us. But seeing Alyn actually snap and confront Corlys in a way that really no one has in this show, just because of how he carries himself and just how cool of an explorer he is and how many ships he has. I think Alyn just kind of going off on his dad is just, it's such a good scene. I love both performances here. I just wish we gotten more from Corlys overall this season. Yeah, they could have like doubled his scene count, and I would have been happy.
I accidentally moved the slide forward for a few seconds. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think some characters have been massively improved. I think Corlys stagnated this season. He went from being a really cool, badass character in season 1 to like basically a nothing character this season. He hasn't been ruined. He hasn't been degraded. He's just bored. You don't think he was bored? What did he do? He did nothing this season.
But... Yeah, well, no, I wouldn't say like he... Like, I don't think he degraded. I think he's no. At exactly the same point he was in season 1.
No, I said he hasn't been ruined. He hasn't been degraded. In the same way, other characters, but he hasn't improved or whatever. He's been stagnating.
A few good scenes.
Someone on Twitter said he spent the whole season building a boat and ended the season on a canoe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yes,
he had a few standout scenes. I liked his scene with Bela, and I liked this scene. I liked the scene last episode with Alyn talking to him more frankly after Adam claimed the dragon, but I do wish they'd done more with him.
Someone in the chat saying that Alan and Adam should have been Laenor's sons. As no, I disagree. I think
No.
I don't think that was ever true in the books. I think that was Corlys covering up for his own adultery. It's
absolutely
it's as open to interpretation as the strong boys being legitimate or not, aka not at all, but some people pretend it is. Yeah, shut the fuck up. Don't you bring up Rhaenys' hair. Don't bring up Rhaenys' hair.
Rhaenys.
Does Rhaenys have a pug nose that all the strong bastards have, like Harwin
We
Strong?
have no idea what her nose looks like. Rhaenys' nose, nor Corlys' nose, is ever described in the book.
The sea snake, the sea snake does not have a pug nose. You know that. I think they're clearly Corlys' sons in the book. I don't think the gay man has two bastard sons.
They're mushrooms.
They're mushroom sons. God damn it, mushroom. But yeah, I thought this was a great scene. Again, ignoring the fact that Corlys has been criminally wasted and the actor's been wasted. This scene is awesome. It was great to see Alan snap. It was great to see him give this emotional monologue. It felt genuine. It felt real. And not only was it a great scene, but it actually recontextualizes everything that came before and retroactively improves Alan's scenes. Because I liked Alan in terms of the sort of, the stiff, surly first mate with a stick up his butt. But I thought, he's a bit boring. Like, I get the whole surly brother versus the more charismatic, open, carefree brother. But this scene recontextualized, like, oh yeah, no, he was like, he had his walls up. He had a hard exterior. He was like bringing his emotions in because of his trauma surrounding his father and how he's been treated by his father. And this was him letting loose. And I loved it. I loved that he was like, oh, so you ignore us our whole lives, but the moment you start losing your legitimate family members and you start needing stuff, now you suddenly come to us. Like, no, fuck you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, that's so much more satisfying than any kind of, my son, let's hug. Yeah, really liked it.
Agreed. And I also think, like, it's fascinating because I agree with you that this is really recontextualized Alan. And it is the fact that, like, I was kind of surprised at the start of this season because he is so different from the character in the books. And I think that, like, now we're seeing him start to grow into what he becomes, which is so cool to see. Alan in the books, oh my god.
There is a certain nickname Alan might get next season. And
which we'll definitely get next season.
It's a good one.
I would guess during the gullet.
Okay, so you start off with this scene, because this is my least favourite scene of the episode. The more I think about it, the more I hate it. But I want you to go first, because it feels like you haven't got any strong opinion on this one.
I don't have a strong opinion either way. I have positives, I have negatives. Positives, I love what it does for their arcs. I love the closing shots of, like, Rhaenyra being crushed under the weight of history and Alicent free with sea and sky. I think that in terms of suspending disbelief, there are issues insofar as, like, I don't know. I can maybe buy them having a secret meeting once this season, but having 2 secret meetings is a bit much. I also think that, I don't know, there are elements of this, as you pointed out on screen, that aren't good at all, specifically the a son for a son thing, given that Alicent does not mention Jaehaerys at all. I will say it's interesting to see that, like, she doesn't specifically remark on which sons other than Aegon. So, I mean, theoretically it sounded like she would spare Aemond, but I don't think Aemond would be willing to be spared. I think that Daeron would probably survive this, but I don't know. I think it was, in a vacuum, I love what it does for both of these characters' arcs, especially Alicent, but it did not fall out of a coconut tree. It exists in the context of all that came before it. And in that context, I don't quite like it. Especially, like, I don't think Alicent would give up her sons as much. And this is another scene that I think is very much hurt by Rhaenyra and Aegon and Aemond not feeling like siblings, which they should.
Alicent is finally unburdened by what has been. Okay,
exactly.
Okay, so I think the more I think about this scene, the more I think it might be the second worst scene of the entire show behind the Dragon Pit scene. So,
Really?
Yes, I think the dragon pit scene is worse, personally. Although it could be, this might end up being worse if the ramifications ruin future season 3 scenes, but we'll have to see. So first off, I think I've got like a whole list. I'll try and be brief. So first off, yeah, the constant contrivances of having these characters meet just within the context of like the show. It's like the show is chipping away at stakes of this show having stakes. If we're constantly having characters smuggle themselves into King's Landing, Rhaenyra smuggles in to meet Alicent and gets away, Alinda Massey smuggles in, walks around in a bright red dress, isn't spotted, all of the dragonseeds smuggle their way out in the episode, and nothing happens. This episode, Aemond literally says that he wants every single fishing boat searched so that no one, no sneaky agent can sneak in and out. And that very same episode, Alicent sneaks away. The issue is if you keep having characters going on these ridiculous journeys and infiltrating enemy territory over and over and over and over. I didn't even mention Arid Cargill, right? If you keep doing this, then you're just chipping away at the stakes, and it becomes like, okay, so people can get away with anything. They can travel anywhere. There's no tension involved. In theory, you could just go to King's Landing whenever you want. You can go to Dragonstone whenever you want. And if you do get caught, the other side will let you go every single time. So first off, that's annoying. Secondly, I'm really fed up of the writer's obsession with this relationship. In season 1, I thought it was a great touch to have Rhaenyra be the same, to have Alicent be the same age as Rhaenyra, to have them as childhood friends growing up. Initially, I liked how she was more sympathetic, although I disliked basically episode 9 onwards for Alicent, where it turns out she wasn't part of the Green Coup, and like she's been gradually sort of losing power and pushing for peace and calm and stability and all that, instead of being what she's in the book. And one-to-one, you don't need one-to-one adaptations, right? You can change it. She is interesting, she's complex, she's deep, she's sympathetic, but getting rid of what makes her an interesting villainess, getting rid of the coldness and some of the calculation and some of the desire for power and proclivity towards ruthlessness, stripping that of her just kind of makes her a bit of a weak, pathetic character. And I get that it's part of her arc that she's being stripped of power but in this council of sexists and she's losing all her allies, but it just doesn't take her in any interesting direction. We saw that with last episode where she's just going glamping, going out, and that is a fine scene and well artfully directed, especially when she's in the water, like hair in the water. But it's like, why do we need this? It feels like this scene exists because Olivia Cooke is contractually obliged to be in every single episode, and you are giving this character too much to do while also stripping her of the ability to do anything to push the narrative that she has no power because she's a woman and she doesn't want to have power because she's a good person fundamentally, which is just a boring direction to take her in. And so when you reach this scene, this sort of trajectory of Alicent's character, I think, making her more boring fundamentally, it comes to a head here where she continues to push the whole, we have to end the war, I'm gonna let you into King's Landing and then you can be on the throne, but don't kill any of my children. So first off, it's stupid. It's just stupid to tell her to not kill any of male
I don't know why she'd expect
male
to
claimants
to
to the throne. Yeah, first off, it's dumb. And secondly, when Rhaenyra says the smart thing, which is, yes, of course I'm going to fucking kill Aegon, and she doesn't clarify this, but it's obvious that she also means I'm also going to kill Aemond and Daeron because they are male claimants. I have to do this. So smart on Rhaenyra, right? So Rhaenyra's fine. And then Alicent is like, I'm shocked and appalled at this very obvious thing, but then she accepts it. And I think it has not been established enough, that her character has not been set up as the sort of character who would sacrifice all 3 of her sons, all 3 of them, to Rhaenyra and be like, yes, I will let my childhood companion sit the throne and I will prevent war, and at the cost of my own children's lives. Like, what was the point of her season 1 arc if this is where she ends up? The show has not naturally led to this. If she had come here and been like, I'm going to sue for peace, and Rhaenyra's like, I'm going to have to kill your sons, and she's like, oh no, I made a mistake, and then she leaves, it would be a dumb scene. And again, it will be the writers overemphasizing this relationship, which I don't want to see. Them being like, the fans wanted to see it. No, some people stands on TikTok and Twitter wanted to see it. The average fan wants to see Jace negotiating with Jane Arryn and Creggan Stark, more of Corlys and Rhaenyra interacting, maybe Alicent doing some political manoeuvring, Rhaenyra doing something at the Black Council. We don't need to keep twisting and bending the narrative to force these characters to meet and have a melodramatic soap-like scene. We don't need that. They've written her into a corner where I don't know. I'm just going to wrap up here. I don't know what they're going to do with her, because I think they've made her weak, powerless, boring. They've stripped every single female character of villainy in this season, which I think at this point borders on absurdity, and maybe even to a lesser degree almost sexism. Like, it's bizarre to me the way they've treated the female characters in terms of, but I just think, the sacrificing her kids for her childhood friend, the show has not said that. At the very most, maybe I can see her potentially sacrificing Aemond because she's scared of him and thinks he's a monster. But I think borderline, and I hate this phrase because fans use it every time, they throw a hissy fit every time there's a minor change and they say character assassination. But to me, this feels like genuine character assassination of Alicent. It feels like from now on, I don't care about her character anymore, full stop.
My biggest issue with it is this scene and the scene in episode 3 feel impatient to me. Insofar as, there will be time for these characters to interact and have these compelling scenes together if the writers want to write compelling scenes for them. However, this is kind of, as we know, the plan in this episode after this episode is to have Rhaenyra go to King's Landing, where Alicent will also assumedly be. If that's the case, and if that were to happen, this would be the only season of the show where these characters are apart. Let them be apart, and that is okay.
Yeah.
That's my main
Let
issue.
them be apart, and by the way, they don't need to be in every fucking episode as well. It's okay to have... Well, no, I think Rhaenyra does. Alicent doesn't need to be. Alicent does not need to be. You can have some very strong scenes, not a, average or weak scene every single episode. I
think it's also it's an issue of cast size as well. Yeah. I think we could use maybe a few more main players. So Game of Thrones had episodes without Daenerys, without Jon, without... Yeah, Daeron is the most obvious victim of the season cut to me. I feel like, especially with Otto vanishing 2 episodes in, I think the plan was originally to include Daeron in this season and essentially to have him and Otto meet up around the mid-season mark and show Daeron's journey westward, maybe ending with a battle or something. But I think that given the fact that the episodes got cut, they pushed Daeron's introduction to next season and kind of removed that plot, and one way to kind of widen the narrative further.
Yeah, I will say... Not interested in Alicent's character anymore. I think they've botched it. With this one scene, basically botched it. Rhaenyra's character, extremely messy, all over the place, poorly paced, but not ruined. I think her arc...
I quite like Rhaenyra's character after these last episodes.
I've liked them these last episodes. It's all the episodes... In the last 2 episodes, I've been fine with it. Before, it's pissed me off. Basically, episodes 2... No, not 2. Episodes 3 to 6 have been insufferable for her. I think but her character is ruined. Season 3, let's be consistent. Listen to the feedback. Listen to the constructive criticism, because that's what we want. We want constructive criticism. We don't just want season 8, bring back D&D, blah, 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 all that Reddit bullshit. Constructive criticism, how do we improve the show? How do the writers improve the show? I think Rhaenyra needs a more stable and sensible arc. It does really. Her arc, Rhaenyra's arc, to me, feels like the redundancy of a lot of the scenes and the pacing and so on feels like an issue with the writer's strike, meaning that they couldn't rewrite it, whereas Alicent feels like they decided from season 1 she was going to go down a certain way, and I disagree with that. And I will say, before we move on, because I've been talking a lot, and I do apologise, Quinn, you're very patient, Matt.
Hi, yeah, hello.
How you doing? Oh, I forget you were here. I will say, the line I hated the most, maybe, even beyond the sun for a son and all that, was Rhaenyra being like, well, if you open the gates and let me into King's Landing, blah, blah, the histories will see you as a villain. I was so pissed off at that line. Because it's basically being used as a bizarre, meta justification for this happening. If the fans are mad that Alicent is playing this role, it's fine. She actually did it, but the sexist maesters in Fire and Blood treated her as the villainous queen. No, I don't care whether it happened in Fire and Blood or not. adaptations don't have to be 100%. People didn't complain about Alicent and Rhaenyra being the same age. That's a good change. Viserys' change, that's good. Changes in adaptation aren't inherently good or bad. They're neutral. It's how you do it, right? It's how you do it. The issue, the issue is that when she was her in the book as a, the Cold Queen, at this point in the story, is actually far more interesting than the Alicent we have now. Yeah, but I think I've spoken enough about this. I'm sure Quinn will wake up at some point after my sleepy ramble.
Hello, I'm awake.
Let's move on to the next slide, shall we? We're nearly at the end, and then we'll be going into super chats and brief spoilers, and so on. So yeah, if you have super chats, send it. If you're wondering why we're not answering, we answer them at the end of the stream. Don't worry, we're not ignoring them.
Yeah. I should also say, Farrah, I think I said beforehand, I do have to take off around 8 o'clock. I have a D&D session, but yeah.
Okay, we'll do a speed run then. I do apologize for how long that took. So Dragonseed drip. There's not much to say here. It's just they're suited and booted. They look cool.
Yeah, I like Hugh's armor a lot. It's basically what I expected from the books.
And also, like, Ulf with the red. Damn.
Unexpected, but I like it.
He looks cool. And then we have the final montage. So this is the last bit of the episode.
This is the thing that I, at this exact moment, have the most issue with.
Okay, go on.
For this entire episode. They showed way too much of this in the Next Time trailer. Like, they showed, I think, all of the armies marching, save for, like, Tyland on the boat, which I think is the next slide. We saw that in the trailer for next week after episode 7. And the shot of Daemon with the army is in the first trailer for the entire season. If these are going to be the shots on which you're going to end the season as a whole, they should not be in trailers. Because, like, seeing these armies march in a trailer sort of implies that they're going to be doing something in the episode, and the episode isn't going to end with these armies marching. Which I did not like.
One of the most scummiest pieces of marketing I've seen, actually. The trailer for this was absurd. What's going on with the slide? Oh, I think it was just messing up for me. I don't think that's showing. Yeah, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of, I don't know if you're going to get this reference, but the Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer.
I do not get that reference.
So, terrible film. There's a trailer for Amazing Spider-Man 2, and the very last shot of that trailer is Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Catching
I think I know what you're talking
a manhole
about.
Cover, with the web, and slow motion spinning and slamming it into giant mechanical rhino, and then the trailer ends, and it's a really badass shot. The shot that trailer ends with is the final scene of the movie, and people were like, "Are you kidding me?" And the trailer for this episode, like you said, just had scenes as part of this closing montage to basically like create the illusion that a battle was happening next episode, which was really scummy. Again, that's the marketing department, that's not the writers, right?
Yes. That's not the writers.
But yeah, this ending, I mean, it was well done. It was well edited. The music was good.
Oh my god.
We can't.
It's the best thing about this episode is that the soundtrack is now on Spotify. This song is called All Must Choose. It's, I think, my second favorite song from the franchise so far.
We all of us fans, everyone in the chat, everyone watching, we must all unite behind our love of Ramin
Djawadi.
Yeah, great music. Like, no one can well, maybe some people might criticize it, but great stuff. Great. The music has always carried both shows, both Game of Thrones and House of Dragon. Incredible. It wouldn't be the same without them. Great score. And the shots of the montage we get to Blue Tessarian flying overhead. That's pretty badass. I like that little cameo. I wish they didn't have it in the trailer because that would have been an awesome moment.
Yeah, would have.
Lannisters marching up to the Red Fork. Daemon overlooking the army at Harrenhal, outside Harrenhal.
Daemon's shot could have been cooler.
Daemon's shot, yeah, it was fine. It is what it is. Otto in prison? Question mark.
Yeah.
Not in the books.
I've
so
seen a lot of takes on where he is.
Because it's not in the books, I'm going to give my opinion because it's not a spoiler because I don't know. I'm guessing he's in Honeyholt, which is that
was my guess as well.
Castle of House Beesbury. He's in the dungeons. He's been captured while traveling through the Reach, and I suspect Daeron will free him the opening of next season, and then they'll interact. It's a way to justify why Otto doesn't return to King's Landing after Aemond summons him, I think.
Mhm. You know what the most fun suggestion I saw was?
What?
Dalton Greyjoy has him.
That would be fun, but also how the fuck does
That
that
would be
work?
so fun.
How?
I have no idea, but it's awesome.
That would be kind of fun. Yeah, I don't think so, but we've also got Aegon
Yeah.
and Larys traveling. That's something we can talk about in spoilers. Um, and then we have the shot of the Greybeards, but interestingly, you actually showed this to me. You pointed this out. Originally, Cregan Stark was meant to be in front of that, and was it digitally
Thank God
removed
he's
him?
not.
Did they digitally remove him?
Yes,
So
they did.
in our predictions live stream, I said that something looks off about the shot. That there's a big gap in the middle, and it looks like someone is meant to be there, like Cregan or Roddy the Ruin, some kind of leader, but no one is. And I remember thinking it looked weird. And this is why, because they edited Cregan out. And it's because, well, no spoilers, but the Winter Wolves are meant to be 2,000 Greybeards who are sent south while Cregan is raising a larger army. So it doesn't make sense that Cregan would be leading these Winter Wolves if he's also raising an army to lead in the future in the north. Like, it doesn't make sense why he'd be there. So they cut him out. It's weird he was there in the first place. Like, but yeah. And then the episode ends and everyone was blue-balled and disappointed. I went into this episode assuming there'd be no battle, so I wasn't as disappointed as casual fans who must have been like, are you kidding me? But yeah, for me, decent episode, one terrible scene, a few bad scenes, and a sorry excuse for a finale. I'm sure the writers are more than aware that people were not going to like this finale going in. They were probably like, let's get it over with, right? Because it was kind of out of their... A lot of stuff was out of their control. Not everything, but a lot of stuff.
Mm.
But I did also... free Otto Hightower school walkout. I did just want to say, this shot of Tyland goes unreasonably hard. Like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah. I saw a tweet saying, like, when you super glue your feet to the hull because your pirate wife is watching.
Yeah, this man, he's
Pirate
in
husband?
such a risky fucking part of the ship. I think pirate husband. Yeah, I think they established it's
pirate husband, but he was fucking her wives, which is why I got confused.
The cuck scene, I told you.
Yes.
But yes. So, wait. The next bit is super. We'll go on to super chats, and then do I have a spoiler section? I don't. Okay. So we'll do super chats next, and then afterwards we can do a spoiler section. And if anyone wants to send in spoiler super chats, let's go ahead. We are 15 minutes away from your D&D, so if you want to leave, don't let me keep you. I might stay on the stream for a bit more if I have any more. No, you know what? I think we should do spoilers first.
I was gonna say spoilers we could save for like a different discussion.
That's a good point. Yeah. Or would you rather do spoilers now and then I do super chats by myself?
I think some of the super chats were asking questions for both of us. If I saw, so
perfect stuff. So I also check Streamlabs. You know what? I'll read out the Streamlabs stuff after you're gone because that tends to lag your Discord. Okay, so the first super chat is from Boombler. I'll do rapid fire. Boombler says, "Look, it's the two weird guys again. How original." We have the best fans, don't we?
Oh, the best.
Boombler, by the way, is the Polish patron I talked about who told George his favourite character was Heil Hunt as a meme.
Mr. Heil Hunt.
And George pogged at him in response. Thank you, Boombler. Thank you for the super chat from Cuz Kofel, who says, Tyland the Chad gets a femboy admiral and his wives. Tyland has really shone this season, honestly. Season 1, he was just kind of in the background, wearing a black outfit, which pissed me off to no end. But here... he's had some fun scenes. He's been fun comic relief, and he's kind of proven himself to be a bit of a badass this episode. I'm looking forward to the future of Tyland. I think Jefferson Hall is doing a great job playing both of these characters, the stuffy, awkward bureaucrat and the narcissistic lord alike. Thank you for the super chat from Lala Loopsy, who says, "Hey Quinn and Quinn's friend, I will kill you, Loopsy. I will kill you. What do you think about Sunfire being possibly, emphasis on that, dead? Also, Daeron Cole bastard possible? Please no." What do you think about the whole Sunfire thing?
Sunfire, I think, is a pretty deliberate misdirect. I think that, like, nobody's seen Sunfire. We've had nobody at Rook's Rest. Aegon obviously doesn't know because he's been sitting in bed. He's just assuming he was on Sunfire. Sunfire crashed. So, who knows? I think we'll see whatever happened to Sunfire, dead or alive, in the future. because it is a castle belonging to Rhaenyra supporters who they'll probably want to reclaim at some point. Also, I do not think there's a chance of Daemon being a Cole bastard because he is riding a dragon and assumedly looks like a Targaryen.
It's a theory that's been floating around like places such as 4chan, and certain theories have been like this specific actor will appear at the end of season 2 as Daemon. It's like a 25-year-old man. But like I never knew that. I never thought that was going to happen, and yeah, they've proven to be fake. But yeah, I would despise Daemon being a Cole bastard. I would hate that so fucking much. So we'll have to see. Are we going to see a suspiciously Dornish-looking Targaryen prince or a Targaryen-looking prince? It will be the latter.
Well, we will in 2025 see
Yes.
a specific Dornish-looking Targaryen prince.
Wait, 2020? You think it's coming out 2025?
I'm talking about Baelor Breakspear.
Oh, yes. Okay, not season 3. No, that's coming out later. Yes, Baelor Breakspear. Strange casting. But we can get into that. Like, we should do like a Dunk and Egg live stream like closer to the show.
We should.
Well, several Dunk and Egg live streams actually. But yes, thank you, Loopsy. Another super chat from Cuz Koful. Thank you so much. Who says, "I love how Larys do what Criston don't." I love how Larys do what Criston don't. Convinces Targaryen princess to sell oranges and spices and Essos and live happily ever after. Yes, that's right. Criston wasn't able to bring Rhaenyra to a shy ? The weird place to weird holiday destination. No kids. I guess no kids. It could be a nice holiday destination.
No kids, pretty nice.
But yeah, Larys didn't need to do the whole looking like Prince Eric with the white shirt and the handsome face and dark hair. Larys just had to come in and straight up be like, "Your brother wants to kill you. Let's get the fuck out of here." Yeah, in terms of spoiler stuff, those two leaving King's Landing at this particular moment, I think kind of takes away the impact of something later on, but we shall see how it goes.
I like it. It makes a little more sense to me.
It strikes me as a rewrite. I feel like it was going to happen later in the season, and then they rewrote with what little time they had. Fair. They rewrote season 8 because like, let's wrap up his arc. Let's give him some kind of conclusion, right? Because I think that makes sense. Next up, thank you for the super chat from Tyr the Cruel, who says, "Bloodraven looks odd in this, given he's not albino. His eyes aren't red, he has both eyes, his birthmark is on the wrong side, and he's quite young, despite being older in the books when he turns tree." Yes, as we said earlier in the stream, you could justify that by saying that it's an interpretation of Bloodraven. It's like young Bloodraven. In the same way, like you said, Quinn, Bran Stark walks in those visions. So like it's just... It is showcasing young blood. The birthmark being on the wrong side isn't a big deal, but it is always weird when the show does that. Like the Hound's burns being on the other side. I'm always like, why? Well, why do it on the other side?
Oh, is that true? Really?
Yeah, the Hound's scars are on the other side of his face than in the book. I just don't know why. I don't know if it's a deliberate choice or just like they make mistakes in the makeup room or something. But yeah, it was cool to see him though. Again, I don't think when people are saying he doesn't look albino, obviously in the book, he's presented as albino in a very fantasy way, right? Like super pale, sheet white hair and like red eyes, like bright red eyes. They don't do interesting eyes in the show. The reasons they give are always bullshit. The whole, oh, it's budget, even though Glidus can change Targaryen eyes like for free in the span of maybe like, I don't know, a few weeks or something. So I don't know why HBO is so scared of colourful eyes, but there we go. Thank you for the super chat from Whitney Davis. Thank you so much. Who says, "Daemon is hard-headed. The Game of Thrones ending connection is not what we got. The A Song of Ice and Fire prophecy is in the books. Daemon can't leave until after the book plot points happen after dragonseeds." Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that means.
I think it's mostly talking about like how they kind of had to create an arc for Daemon because of the timing of events.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because bear in mind that the book purists who kind of go crazy, being like, "Why didn't you adapt the book 1-to-1?" If you adapt the book 1-to-1, Daemon does nothing. Daemon comes to Harrenhal, rallies the River Lords. That's it. And like what were you going to say about Rhaenyra?
Oh, Rhaenyra also does nothing all season.
Rhaenyra lies in bed grieving, right? Alicent literally does zero. So, like, of course you need these characters to do stuff. I would rather have a season of Harrenhal visions than Daemon rocks up Burning Mill and then does nothing. Like, of course you need changes. Yeah. So yeah. The Song, you're right. Whitney's right. The A Song of Ice and Fire prophecy is in the books. it was raised in season 7 of the show and then completely dropped for season 8. They just abandoned the whole Prince That Was Promised Azor Ahai thing. I don't know what that was all about, but yeah. Thank you for the super chat from Thabiso Mfana. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly. Who says, my condolences for the death of Alicent Hightower. She was loyal to all her children and would have died before offering them as a sacrifice to Azor Ahai. Her passing is a wound that will never heal. Rest in peace, Alicent. She won't be in season 3, but the withered husk of what used to be Alicent will be in season 3. Yeah, no, I don't want to be too dramatic about it, but I do think her character,
I don't think it's that bad.
I'm like, her character wouldn't, that has not been set up enough, and it's just a boring arc to take her on. Like, it's so eye-rolling. I'll tell you what, if we end 4 seasons of House of Dragon without a single female villain, I will be baffled. I don't know what they're doing in terms of how they're writing women sometimes in the show. It's
Rhaenyra
it feels so counterintuitive. Rhaenyra's taking a turn. She's taken long enough, but I do like that she's taking a turn. And like I said, the whole prophecy thing, the whole kind of, are the blacks turning into like prophecy-obsessed messianic cultists? We must win for this. We're justifying our violence with this greater good thing, kind of Paul Atreides vibes. I'm up for that. It just depends on how it's done in future seasons. Thank you for the super chat from Tyr the Cruel, who says, I really dislike how all the female characters in the show feel the same. I'm not a book purist, but like, why are they all quote-unquote good? Basically what I just said to you right now. I don't think you even fully agree with me here, Quinn, but...
I don't.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, they are
I'm
all
letting you say your piece.
Yeah, they are all... I'll let you say your piece because I've spoken so much this live stream. You give your take on this.
I disagree. You know, I think that the characters feel very different. I think that each of them has a sort of different sense of morality. You can kind of feel what each of them tends to value. And I think that, like, that whole argument is kind of undercut by Rhaenyra's arc these last couple episodes, because she is willing to feed all of these people to the dragons just to kind of shore up her position. I think that, like, I don't know, even looking at the book up until this point, we really, the only female villain in the book, by comparison at this point, and that's just by virtue of the systems that exist in Westeros that really don't give women power in this era, is Alicent, who is changed from the books, but largely I think those changes in the parts of the story where she is a more active villain are for the better, insofar as I think she's more of a villain in season 1 than she would have been in season 2, and I quite like her role in season 1, so...
I will say this. Every single female character in House of the Dragon has called for peace and restraint and has scolded men for being bloodthirsty. And that is Rhaenyra, that's Alicent, that's Rhaenys, that's Mysaria, who's also serving the people, right, kind of discount Varys. And it's even Alice Rivers, who's a spooky witch. Now, half the characters I mentioned are actively very good characters, but I just think it's extremely lame, and to me it feels borderline sexist that all the women are being presented as pearl-clutching, anti-bloodshed, anti-ruthless, anti-power-grabbing good guys, and all the men are like, we're the blustering, bloodthirsty people, bro. And it's like, give us some interesting female villains. I feel, obviously I'm not a woman, but I feel like lots of women watching this show might feel shortchanged, being like, where's the Cersei? Where's the Melisandre? Where's the cool, badass female villain in this show? Yes, the women have different levels of morality and so on, but like, I think I'm just baffled by a lot of it, and but I'm glad that we disagree, because it's more interesting when we disagree, honestly. And then the final super chat I have here is from Cuz Koful. Thank you so much once again. I think that's their first super chat, their third super chat rather. Thank you very much. Who says Ulf and Jace fighting for being the alpha bastard. It's funny, there was tension between them, but it was purely like Jace. Like you didn't get the vibe that Ulf gave a shit. Ulf was like, oh yeah, my little nephew, like rubbing his head, getting him in a headlock kind of vibes. Jace is like, I fucking hate you. Look at your dark hair. Who's to say we are Targaryens? He's like, are you fucking joking me?
We're the same, you and I.
We are not so different, you and I. There we go. So,
all right, I think I have to get going because I have to run a D&D session.
Quinn the GM.
Quinn the GM has to do some GMing.
Yeah, this was a really fun finale live stream. I'm more than aware that I spoke well over 50% of the time. So thank you for indulging me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Of course. In terms of my stuff, I have a channel. I'm sure it's probably linked in the description.
Yep.
Follow me there. I'm currently working on 2 videos. One of them will be out soon. It's the best house cut from Game of Thrones. I bet you can guess which house that is. And then the other one I'm also very excited about. It's sort of a semi-sequel to my video on disability, so it'll be
Ooh.
interesting to see. And
So,
I'm very happy with the writing I've done so far. It's not about the books, or sorry, it's not about the show. It's about the books. I'm talking about 4 viewpoint characters and how they all kind of deal with trauma in different ways. And I think it's I've really enjoyed writing it so far. I've done some research. I've actually consulted with another person on YouTube in terms of like asking about actual psychological concepts because I'm no expert. So yeah, it's been fun so far.
awesome stuff. Well, have fun with your D&D. Everyone go subscribe to Quinn the GM, and I hope your headache feels better.
Thank you. I hope yours does too. Goodbye, everyone.
See you, Quinn. He's gone. Quinn's gone. So we're going to be staying for a bit. I'll be checking to see if anyone sent in any Streamlabs donations, and I'll read those off if there are any. We're going to dive into spoilers, so I think just you and me in the chat, one-on-one. We're going to be looking at this episode and maybe the season as a whole through a book spoilers lens. So if you're not interested in book spoilers, if you don't want to know about the future of Hot D, then feel free to drop off the live stream. Drop a like and sub and all that good stuff. I have a bunch of animated videos and reviews on my channel if you're here for the first time. After my episode 7 and 8 spoiler-free reviews, my quickies, well, my longie, because it's two episodes being reviewed in one. After that, I might have a quick break from YouTube because I'm quite burnt out. Yeah. And for those who are new, if you're wondering, why is this British arsehole talking so much and interrupting a bit, I do have ADHD, so sometimes I do go on tangents and I go on for a bit too long, honestly. But Quinn was a good sport there because I did speak over him a bit. He was a very good sport. So thank you, Quinn. So I think we should start talking. Let me check out Streamlabs. Then we should start talking about spoilers. A lot of viewers too. We're doing good for viewers. Like, I don't think I've had this many viewers on the live stream, maybe ever. So this is pretty awesome. What did we think of the episode then, fellas? Well, it looks like we got mixed responses in the chat. We have some people who hated it, some people who liked it, etc., etc. Okay. It doesn't look like any Streamlabs donations. That's fine. If while we talk about the spoiler section, if you have any, if you want to send in any super chats with book spoilers, this is the time because it's spoiler. Okay, so stop hitting the mic/desk. Okay, my apologies. You could have said please, but that's fine. I think we should. Yeah. Where should we begin? Let me go back to. I'll keep this White Walker on the screen, but let me go back to the slides. So, first up, the triarchy. So Tyland, the triarchy, with Admiral Philosophy Tube herself. So obviously this is setting up the Battle of the Gullet. We're going to have the triarchy ships sailing in to lift the Velaryon blockade, and of course in the book this happens before the fall of King's Landing. In my opinion, episode 9 of this season was going to be Battle of the Gullet, and again, spoilers. Drop out if you haven't read the books or you don't care about spoilers. But Battle of the Gullet followed by the death of Jaceres, and then episode 10 would have been the fall of King's Landing, and then the aftermath and all that stuff, and then boom, season 3. That's clearly how it was written. A month before filming, HBO said, we're cutting out the last 2 episodes, and by the way, don't rewrite anything majorly because there's a strike coming, and the strike hit, so quite unfortunate. Okay, in the chat, calling for violence against writers because you don't like what they've done is really stupid. So I'll put that person in the timeout. Don't do that. Be a normal person. Yeah, let's not do that. Right, so yes, so the Battle of the Gullet. So that means I think season 3 will begin with the Battle of the Gullet. How many times can I say Battle of the Gullet? Season 3 will begin, and maybe they'll do Gullet and Fall of King's Landing simultaneously, potentially, right? To sort of maybe it happens at the same time. Maybe they launch the attack on King's Landing, and then like maybe Jace and Baylor and maybe someone else stays behind on Dragonstone, but then boom, Battle of the Gullet, and they're like, oh no, our dragons are split, and then they do the Gullet battle, and that results in Jace's death, etc. Because it's a Pyrrhic victory for the Blacks, because they do destroy the fleet, but a lot of Valyrian ships are destroyed, and what's it called? Spice Town, right? Spice Town in Driftmark is destroyed and sacked, and the Valyrian and looted, and it's the beginning of the end of Valyrian power. But yes, so I think that will be the beginning of next season. It's pacing wise, it's odd to me. I mean, they don't have a choice, right? But it's very weird to be pacing wise, because it's like, so you're gonna start off season 3 with like a giant battle and a major character death, and then how do you transition on from that? Because if you look at the events of the Dance of the Dragons, you've got so much going on. You've got Battle of the Honeywine coming up. You've got the Battle of the Red Fork and the Fish Feed, and you've got all these things in play. And how are you going, if you only have 2 seasons left, presumably 8 episodes each? How are you gonna do that? At this rate, it's like every episode of season 3 will have to be a battle episode, but that doesn't make sense for the budget. People kind of forget that budgets are a thing, right? But like that makes no sense. What are we going to do? Battle of the Gullet episode 1, episode 2, Fall of King's Landing, episode 3, Battle of the Honeywine, episode 4, Red Fork, episode 5, Fish Feed, Butcher's Ball, blah, blah. Like, you can't do that. So I don't know what they're going to do in terms of budget, but I reckon we're going to see a few battles happen off screen, or we might have a Burning Meal situation where we see the start of it and then the ending, so on and so forth. But yeah. And we'll probably see the death of Admiral Lohar, right? Because I think Shreko Lohar dies during the Triarchy. And Tyland being on the ship in armor, like implying he's going to take part in a battle, is pretty badass, because he's just stuffy bureaucrat on the council in the book, but here he's going to be part of the battle, which is pretty fun. We have another player. And we know that when Rhaenyra takes King's Landing, she captures Tyland and has him tortured and mutilated and gelded and blinded and all of that stuff. So are we still going to do that? Is he going to get captured during the Gullet, maybe? And because he's responsible... Oh, I'll tell you what it is. Instead of Rhaenyra being like, tell us where the treasury is, we will torture you, Tyland will be captured, and they'll be like, you're the person who negotiated and successfully brought the Triarchy to launch this attack, and then the Triarchy fleet killed Jace. Fuck you. I'm going to torture you. Not just to learn about where the treasury is, but also as revenge. And I hope Rhaenyra orders the torture. I'd be really pissed off if Rhaenyra is like, if it's like Daemon who orders it, like, no, Rhaenyra needs to be more ruthless. I want this Rhaenyra to be like, yes, I'm going to fucking blind you and geld you, etc., etc. So yeah, again, pacing wise, season 3 opening with Gullet, we'll see how it goes. What else have we got? Aegon and Larys leaving early. Rest in peace, Sausage Man. Man. Aegon and Larys leaving early, to me. I understand why. Like I said to Quinn, you want to wrap up that arc, right? Like you have a very, very pretty wonderful arc for Aegon, and then all of a sudden at the very end, if you just have him lying in bed and boom, the season ends, it'll be like, what? So they wanted him to be part of that closing montage. They wanted to wrap up his story. They're like, yeah, they've escaped, and of course that happens in the book during the fall of King's Landing, and I get it. I get why they do it now, but it does also rob the fall of that moment. You know, it robs it of, they take King's Landing, oh fuck, Aemond's in Harrenhal, but Aegon's in bed and he's bedridden and Rhaenyra's going to blah blah, and then they go to his bedchamber and he's gone. Like, he's dramatically, him and Larys vanished. Such a cool moment. It's not going to be on screen because he's already gone, so I don't know if he needed to flee this episode. I think they could have delayed it for season 3, honestly. But it'd be interesting to see where they go, because we know he kind of just disappears from the book, right? And then we get a little flashback where Larys and Aegon actually flee to Dragonstone, like right under the Black Snows, and they commute and they get in touch with some of the Blacks, such as Alfred Broom, and they basically convince them to let them into they convince them to open the gates, let them in, get the garrison on their side, and then they take over Dragonstone, and when Rhaenyra returns, boom, they capture her. But that's like season 4 stuff. Rhaenyra returning to Dragonstone to be captured by Aegon and the Turncloaks is season 4. So what does Aegon do for a whole season? Sit in a Dragonstone cave, plotting for season 4? I don't think that works. Because Larys said he's moved funds to Bravos, I think we could see them fleeing to Bravos. Like, we need to flee to a free city, to another continent, across the Narrow Sea, and think about our game plan. And maybe there's some kind of, I don't know, there's some interesting arc he can go through in Bravos. It will be hard. It'll be hard to write. I don't know how exactly they'll do it, but we'll have to see. I do have a personal theory that because Helaena in this show hasn't really been set up as like mad with grief, you know, in the book she's mad with grief and she jumps out of the window to her death on the motor spikes below because of the death of Maelor. Maelor doesn't exist, so what's the thing that will push Helaena figuratively and literally off the edge? I don't know. Would this character even do it? I don't know. Maybe she'd do it if it's in a prophecy. Like the you know, my dreams say that I have to jump off, so I will jump off. That'd be kind of lame. So I have a kind of personal headcanon that Helaena won't jump. She'll be assassinated. I think the entire show will end it will end after the Hour of the Wolf, so Jaehaera will still be alive, Aegon III will be betrothed to Jaehaera, and then that's it. We won't see any of like Unwin scheming, we won't see Jaehaera assassinated, etc. So because of that, they will move Jaehaera's death to Helaena. I think Helaena will be deliberately pushed. Who would do it? Rhaenyra? No, of course not. I think Larys will do it. Not personally, but I think Larys will have an agent assassinate Helaena and then spread word in the city that Rhaenyra did it out of jealousy, and then further turn the small folk against Rhaenyra, who, you know, already are beginning to hate everyone in power. And then Larys can be like, oh, terrible news, Aegon. Because, of course, Larys would not get permission from anyone. He'd do it personally. He'd be like, in Bravos, right, sitting under the lemon tree, sitting under some lemons, eating some lemon cake, they'll be like, oh, Your Grace, I'm so sorry, but it seems like the traitor Princess Rhaenyra has pushed your sister wife from a balcony out of jealousy. Oh, terrible thing. And then, of course, Aegon would be furious and so on. And the people of King's Landing would be like, how could Rhaenyra do this? Because I just don't see Helaena jumping. But yeah, I think Larys will be cooking and scheming next season. I think Aegon's the hardest thing to work out, because is he just going to be like bedridden in Bravos the entire season, or we'll have to see. We'll have to see. If anyone has any suggestions in the chat, let me know. I'm reading the chat right now. Someone said, Haven, that would be so lame. As in merging Jaehaera's death with Helena's death? Yeah, I've brought that up to people before, and they've told me that they don't like that idea. I just don't see Helaena as being someone who... In show Helaena doesn't strike me as someone who would just yeet out of a window. Like, it doesn't... I don't know. I will also say, here's my take. I don't know how hot this is. My take is, I fucking hate Daenerys Velaryon, and I think George retconning Aegon marrying Jaehaera to Aegon marrying Daenerys Velaryon is one of the worst retcons he's ever done. I think it's so stupid. I hate it so much. First off, it's so much more thematically resonant that Aegon and Helaena marry and have children, and that the bloodlines of both Team Black and Team Green join together, and the entire war is rendered pointless. That's the point. Why did he change it then? Why did he change it to, you know, the cringy scene of, you know, the sexiest 6-year-old in the world at the fucking cattle show? Like, the bizarre shit. Apparently, it's because, from what I've read, George changed it because the ages didn't work out. And when I first read that, I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? The ages don't work out? I don't understand that. What he means is that by the time Aegon III was old enough to have kids with Jaehaera, who's older than him, she would be in her early 20s. And apparently George thought that a queen being in her early 20s was too late to start having children. So he made Daenerys, who's far younger. That's the most stupid shit I've ever heard. I could have a whole rant about why that makes no sense, but I won't right now. In fact, the whole marriages and ages in Westeros is so nonsensical, but there is another justification, which is understandable actually, which is because Aegon's descendants are the Blackfires, right? And then Viserys and Lara Roger's descendants are, you know, go on, blah, 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 to Daeron II. It means that the Blackfire Rebellion turns into almost a black versus green thing, where Daeron II, is the blood of Daeron II is the blood of, well, yeah, he's the blood of Rhaenyra and Daemon, whereas the Blackfires would be the blood of Rhaenyra, Daemon, but also Jaehaera and Aegon the Second. So, So it kind of turns the Blackfire thing into a black versus green, a continuation of that, which it shouldn't be. But I hate it. I think the change is so stupid, and it's written so nastily too. It's really strange. I think it makes perfect. If the show did a retcon, which is Aegon II actually marries Jaehaera, I would support that. I'd be like, this is a good change. This is thematically resonant. This makes more sense than a random Valyrian child who has never been mentioned before popping up and marrying Aegon because he found her hot. Like, come the fuck on. I don't know how many people agree with me there. I'll have a look at the chat. And I'll check the super chats just before I finish the stream, don't worry. I'm not ignoring them. Ramsay Snow approves this sausage. Oh, someone suggesting Mysaria. Mysaria feels betrayed by Rhaenyra abandoning the commons for her cult, and she wants revenge. Could be Mysaria, maybe. I will say Mysaria, terrible character this season. Played monotonously, written boringly. If Mysaria turns out to be against the Blacks and Greens and is just trying to take down the nobility and is playing Rhaenyra for a fool, that would improve Mysaria's character, genuinely. I guess they're going to scrap the part where Alicent and Helena are pimped out to the Street of Silk. I don't think that was ever going to happen, let's be honest. That's like a mushroom version, right? That wasn't, yeah. Show Rhaenyra would not be like, Helena's being pimped out. That's absurd. Oh, people like my Helena take. Oh, okay, cool. Someone saying, nah, fuck the Greens bloodline. But, like, moving away, like... but I just think it makes sense thematically that both bloodlines join together, rendering the war pointless. Like, that's way more tragic. That's way more tragic than marrying random Valyrian girl. Like, although, yeah, I do. Unwin Peak assassinating Jaehaera is like, it's cool for his character as a scheming scumbag, who I hope we see more of in Fire and Blood Part 2. Yeah. Okay, so what other spoilery stuff can we talk about? Sheepstealer. I've been avoiding this discussion all of the live streams, and because she never claimed Sheepstealer, I thought I could get away with it. I will briefly say they have set up Rhaena to claim Sheepstealer, so it's probably going to happen. If they introduce Nettles as part of the backlash, on one hand it would be cool to see Nettles because she's a badass character, but it would also be really lame to set something up and then be like, psych, you didn't see that coming. I don't know. Oh, Alfred Broom. People bring up Alfred Broom in the chat. Alfred Broomy. Yeah, so obviously he's the most senior knight on Dragonstone in the book, and Rhaenyra does not name him Castellan when she leaves. Instead, the person who runs Dragonstone in her absence. Instead, she names someone called Sir Robert Quince, who Alfred Broom despises. And then he decides to betray them for Aegon, who probably promises some kind of raise of station for him or something. Now, in the show, they're setting up that he doesn't like Rhaenyra, and he doesn't like how incompetent she's been, and he's right, by the way. And then he goes to Daemon and sells her out, throws her under the bus. But then Daemon bends a knee to Rhaenyra, so he's like, oh, okay. So it looks like the show is doing that. He's just becoming disillusioned with Rhaenyra, and maybe there'll be a scene where she's like, yeah, you're kicked off the council, and I don't want you to be Castellan, and, just serve as a soldier. And he's like, fuck you. Or they might do something more with him. I've seen one theory that because he's at Harrenhal, he will ride back to Dragonstone, in terms of like he'll ride to the nearest port and then sail there. But then on the way back, I've seen one theory saying that he will run into Aegon and Larys traveling, and they will recruit him. Bit convenient, but Game of Thrones has Catelyn and Tyrion meeting in the crossroads, which arguably starts the War of the Five Kings. So it's kind of convenient. And then the whole Aegoons being sent to the Wall, I always found that really random. Like, I was like, why isn't Aemond just executing them? Why is he being merciful? I think Aegon and Larys might bump into those two being sent to the wall, and then they'll be recruited, and so Aegon will have 2 angry Kingsguard who will join him as soiled Kingsguard protecting him, so that he has more people to bounce off of. I think. Yeah, Broom. It's interesting how Broom is kind of being presented as like this sexist arsehole when he's like, are any of his criticisms wrong? Let me get Broom up, actually. Are any of his criticisms wrong? Not really. No, not really. But we'll see what they do with that. Dreamfyre, I don't think she'll... Black... Okay, so Criston and Gwaine. I'm very excited to see Criston and Grain. I'm very excited to see these two have some fun. Have we moved slide? Yes, we have. All the fucking, like... all the thirsty people online being like they need to go into like a gay relationship on what stays in the battle camps remains in the battle camps, you know. What happens in the tents stays in the tents. But yeah, they have a very fun dynamic. The classic sort of boarding school posh boy versus the working class Dornishman, and they've got some fun chemistry. And here's what I think is going to happen season 3. They're going to march to Harrenhal. Aemond will go to Harrenhal. And we're going to have a really fun dynamic of 4 characters. It'll be Aemond, Alice Rivers, Criston, and Gwaine. And I can see both Aemond and... obviously, we're going to have Aemond visions. Obviously, we're going to have Criston visions. Those will be really fun. Aemond can see anyone from, like, Lucerys Velaryon, the brothel madam, maybe his younger self with both of his eyes. And Criston could see like Joffrey Lonmouth, Lyman Beesbury, young Rhaenyra, the Cargill twins, all that stuff. And I like the idea that Gwaine doesn't have visions. Like, his mind is so undisturbed, he just doesn't have visions. He's like, what's wrong with you two? He needs to be the straight man. Because Simon Strong acts as the straight man in Harrenhal, but we know that Aemond he basically massacres, genocides the Strongs, the House of Strong. So I think we're going to have Criston and Aemond going insane, and then Gwaine being chill. Which reminds me, by the way, for those who don't remember, Aemond challenges Simon Strong to a duel in his rage, kills him, and then orders every Strong to be brought before him so he can behead them. So I think we're going to see the death of Simon Strong early next season. It was probably going to happen at the end of this season, actually, but I think we're going to have... I hope it's a duel. I hope it's not just an execution. I hope Aemond's like, come here, and Simon basically says, oh, you're going to kill a unarmed old man, are you? You coward. And Aemond's like, fine, throws a sword at him, fight me, then destroys him, and then he's like, the whole kind of bringing every single Strong to him to execute is a bit much, so it might just be like, kill them where they stand, or maybe gather all of the Strongs like in a courtyard, and then Vhagar burns them all in one go. That might be a bit more effective. But I do want to see the duel between Simon and Aemond. Or maybe they'll keep Simon alive because he's a fan favourite. I don't know, but... And Alice. Because Alice has been, like, helping Daemon this season, so how are we going to get to the point where Alice Rivers, who scolded Daemon for committing war crimes, cozies up to Aemond and becomes his lover? Because, you know, Aemond is, like, Daemon times 1,000. He's going to be burning all kind of innocents in the Riverlands. I don't quite understand what Alice is going to do. Like, to me, it feels like it's not going to be a genuine relationship. It's not going to be the whole kind of Aemond with that. They've set up Aemond liking older women, both in terms of he has mummy issues with Alicent, he likes a brothel madam, he chose a dragon who's basically like an old lady. All that stuff is brilliant and leads into Alice Rivers, who we don't know how old she is, but she's an older woman. So Aemond being into her, set up perfectly. I love it. Alice being into Aemond, I don't understand. It feels to me that her role will actually just be to manipulate him and to trick him and to maybe keep him trapped in Harrenhal. Like, an excuse for him not riding out and fighting on Vhagar is Alice will basically ensnare Aemond in her. I don't quite know how it's gonna work. Someone said they hated Alice's actress's accent. It was unbearable. No, I don't agree with that. She had a fantastic Scottish accent. I think it was wonderful. It was cool. It doesn't make any sense that one woman in this entire castle of people with Southern English accents has a Scottish accent, but it kind of adds to the whole kind of witchy, rustic vibes, you know. Bad accents, we're talking about Mysaria. Alice Rivers, The Scottish accent? You kidding me? Amazing stuff. Accent corner. One of these days I have to do an accent video where I just break down every single accent in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. I don't think anyone would watch that. You know, I feel like, I don't know if that would be a very popular video, but, you know, it could be fun. But yeah, what else? What else are we looking at, people? And then I'll jump onto the super chats. Jace, yeah, I feel like, as I said before, Jace was meant to probably die at the end of this season, but instead he'll die early next season. Again, weird for pacing, but there's not much they can do there. Let's talk about the two traitors, shall we? So for those who need a reminder, the two traitors, Ulf and Hugh, they betray Rhaenyra at Tumbleton. Now, we don't know too much about how or why. We know that in the book, Hugh is basically a big, dumb idiot, and Rhaenyra was like, you can be knights, and they're like, knights not good enough. And they're like, oh fine, you can be lords of, you know, minor holdings in Dragonstone. And they're like, we literally ride dragons. That's not good enough for us. Sorry, but that's just not good enough for us. And so, yeah, they join the Greens in order to get more land, but then they get too big for their boots, and Hugh Hammer ends up being like, I want to be the king, and Ulf can be the Lord of Highgarden. And Ulf is like, hell yeah, just like Bronn in season 8. And Hugh's like, who the fuck is Bronn? What does season 8 mean? And Ulf is like, shit, I shouldn't have said that. Ulf the Greenseer, he's seen season 8. In the show, both characters are so much more interesting. Hugh isn't just a big dumb brute. He is a quiet, intense Chad with a tragic backstory. And Ulf is not just like a lame drunk guy. He's like a really fun raconteur and shit talker. He's a Brexit geezer in the pub, you know. He's someone you love to chat with and get a drink with, but he's also a bit of an arsehole, you know. So why are they going to betray Rhaenyra? I think it'll be about, you know, land and power and all that stuff. Okay, for Ulf it'll be opportunistic. For Ulf it will be, oi, mate, I got a dragon. I want some more land. And Rhaenyra will be like, you can have some Dragonstone. He's like, no, I want more land. And the Greens will offer him like a big plot of land, right? For Hugh, I think it'll be different. I think for Hugh, it will be less power for the sake of power and more fuck both sides. It's going to be like, fuck the Greens, fuck the Blacks. You're both committing war crimes. You're both harming civilians. The blockade of the Gullet by the Blacks and the mismanagement by the Greens led to my sick daughter dying. It could be that maybe they're ordered to commit war crimes in Tumbleton, and we know that his wife is in Tumbleton, so he's going to be like, fuck no, I'm not going to do that. And he just might be like, screw the Blacks and the Greens, you both suck. I want to be king, and I'll be king for the small folk. That's what I think Hugh's going to be. He's going to be a man of the people king. Someone says it in the chat. Jack, yeah, hi Jack, my patron. He says, Hugh, man of the people. Hugh Hammer will be King Hugh of House Hammer. So Ulf will be the slimy opportunist. Hugh will have nobler intentions, which is so cool, so much more interesting. It's funny, late stage at House of Dragon, we're going to have so many factions. We're going to have Moon of the Three Kings, we're going to have Daeron, we're going to have Aegon, we're going to have Hugh. It's quite funny. Yeah, and Adam, they've done a good job of showing how loyal Adam is. Okay, so question to the chat. What did you think about Helaena spoiling Aemond's fate to both him and the audience? So I tried to, I did a bit of a misdirect earlier on in this live stream, because I knew some people might be worried about the spoiler, so I was like, listen, prophecy in A Song of Ice and Fire, it's vague, it never means what you think it means, it's often subverted or blah, 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 so, but it's none of that. It's genuinely Helaena just full on says, this is how you die. And I was like, oh no, that's stupid. That's stupid. You should not have said that. Like, if it was a vague threat, like, there are so many poetic, vague ways you could present that, but presenting it in the way she did was just like, okay, cool, just fucking spoil that to the audience? Fine. Why? Yeah. It should have been something like, what's a poetic way of saying it? Yeah, Alice Rivers. Okay, someone said it was like Alice Rivers telling Daemon, you'll die here. I'm fine with that. That's different. That's vague. That can be interpreted many ways. Alice Rivers being like, you will die in this place. Is she lying? Is she threatening him? Is it prophetic? Does she mean literally die, or does she mean like spiritually, mentally? Like, that can be interpreted different ways. Helaena talking around and being like, you will be swallowed up in the God's Eye. You can't really interpret that any other way. It should have been something like, I don't know. You know what would have been cool? If Helaena said, you will have to lose an eye if she repeated what she said in season 1, you will have to lose an eye. And that freaks him out because like, what do you mean? And the audience could be like, is she repeating what she said in season 1? Or is he going to become blind? But of course, if you've read the books, you know what it means is Daemon's going to ram a fucking sword through his other eye, right? So, yeah. It's weird because, like, Sarah Hess wrote this episode. And so now Sarah Hess is responsible for the worst episode of season 1, which was episode 9, and the worst episode of season 2, which is this episode. And she's also responsible for the second worst episode of season 1, which was episode 6. However, she also wrote episode 2, which is one of my favourite episodes of House of the Dragon ever. Episode 2 is like top 5 episodes, top 4 episodes. So, excuse me. Oh, apologies, sorry. I think Sarah Hess is good at individual dialogue scenes for the most part, but in terms of constructing a wider episode, there's lots of dumb shit in her episodes. And you can't just explain it away and say, oh, Condor is the ideas guy. Condor and Hess are both the ideas guy. They're both the head writers. Wait, Aemond gets stabbed through his blind eye. Does he? I remember him getting stabbed through his normal eye. I thought he gets stabbed. Does he get stabbed through the sapphire eye? Okay, I forgot that. I actually think it's more fitting that he gets stabbed through the other eye, personally, but yeah. What else can we talk? That White Walker is so fucking funny. It's so... Oh my god. Okay, Alyn. Yeah, Alyn. Oakenfist. He'll probably distinguish himself in the triarchy battle, in the Battle of the Gullet. That would be fun. Alicent, I have no idea where Alicent's arc is going from now on. I'm genuinely baffled. Like, what does Alicent do? There's like a debate in the chat. Some people are saying he gets stabbed in his good eye. Other people are saying he gets stabbed in his sapphire eye. Let me look this up. Let me see. Daemon left from his dragon to the other, tore off Aemond's helm, and drove his Valyrian steel sword axis through his nephew's blind eye. It was through the blind eye, according to the wiki. I feel like the good eye... It's like Mandela effect. I'm sure it was the good eye. I think the good eye makes more sense. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Alicent... What? Okay, so she opens the gates to King's Landing. She lets Rhaenyra in, willing to sacrifice her sons. Okay, then what? Okay, Rhaenyra rules in King's Landing. Alicent does what? Chills in a fucking garden, reads books in her bedroom, sits on Rhaenyra's small council. That would be fucking infuriating. What does she do for the rest of this show? Like, and by the way, I'm not going to do the annoying book purist of it should be like in the books, because what? If you say that, then you're saying Alicent should do nothing for 2 whole seasons, because that's what she does in the books, nothing. But yeah, there was a better option than this. Oh my god. And Rhaenyra next season, I am so done with Rhaenyra saying every episode, now is the time to attack and take things seriously. Oh my god, no. Next season, ruthless Rhaenyra. Ruthless Rhaenyra. And then, I guess to look at the closing montage, let's break these down. So, Battle of the Honey Wine, so top left, right, we have Daeron on Targaryen. Hopefully not a coal bastard. Battle of the Honey Wine, I don't think we're going to see it in full, because they're not going to spend loads of money on a big battle between a bunch of Reach Lords we've never met before. What I think we'll see is a battle for like a few seconds, then Targaryen rides in, and they're like, huzzah, Daeron, and then he burns loads of fire, and then we cut to black, then we cut to the aftermath, and then like, we have won the battle thanks to you, Daeron, and then Daeron's like, hey, it's me, I'm Daeron, how are you doing? Played by Fantasy Haven. And then we're introduced to him. So that's what I think the honey wine will be. And then I think, yeah. And Otto in the cell, I think they locked Otto up as an excuse for him not be in the season. They probably were like, we have enough plot points going on, we don't have time for Otto, and we're not having him stay around King's Landing doing nothing until he gets beheaded, which would have been a bit lame. It's a fitting death, but it would have been lame for the actor to just not do anything for a whole season. So instead, he's gone off to the Reach. to be in Daeron's plot, which is genius. So I think he's been captured by the Beesbreeze, and I think Honeyholt will fall to Daeron, and Daeron will free Otto and be like, grandfather. And then we're going to have a really awesome fucking dynamic with Daeron, this really cool character, his friend Ormond Hightower, probably also chivalrous, probably a bit smug, and then Otto is like the schemer. And you know what? You know what they could have done? They could have had Alicent. Imagine they did this. Imagine Alicent doesn't have this stupid scene. Imagine she goes, okay, Aegon is a lost cause, Aemond is a lost cause, I'm going to join Otto in the Reach, and I'm going to push for Daeron to be on the Iron Throne. Excuse me. Imagine we had that. Imagine we have Alicent and Otto scheming with, like, Daeron. That would be awesome. Also, Unwind Peak will probably be in the Reach, and I think Unwind Peak will be the darkest aspects of Otto reflected back at him. We're going to have Unwind Peak as the evil, villainous scumbag that makes Otto look good and likeable. Because guess what? Otto's actually pretty likeable. People hated him in Season 1, and Season 2 everyone's like, oh, that Episode 2 scene was badass. That's fucking badass. Not only was it badass, but also we want him back. You know, the season's been a bit boring without Otto. So Otto's going to basically somehow stumbled his way into being a fan favourite through one scene, essentially. So I think we're going to have meeting Daeron through Otto is really smart, and having Unwin be like the more evil version of Otto to make Otto look better in comparison would be a really smart move. And then that could lead to all kind of things such as, well, Honeywine, Tumbleton, Daeron's plot, trying to get Daeron on the throne, and then the Caltrops, the plan to assassinate Hugh and Ulf, all that stuff. Some people think Otto will be merged with Hobart Hightower, and he'll be the one who poisons, you know, so in the book, Hobart Hightower goes to poison Ulf, and Ulf doesn't trust him, so he's like, why don't you drink the wine with me? And Hobart is so dedicated, he's like, you know what, yes, I will drink the wine. And they both drink the wine and die. And some people are theorizing that Otto will take Hobart's place, and he'll be like, okay, we have to assassinate Ulf, I'll drink the wine, and he'll sacrifice himself to kill Ulf, with the hopes that with Ulf and Hugh dead, Tessarion can go to King's Landing, and you know, the pretenders are gone, the threat is gone, Tessarion can go to King's Landing, Daeron can become King Daeron the First. Maybe. Also, here's my prediction. People will love Daeron next season, they will love Otto and Daeron working together, and they will say, fuck Team Green, fuck Team Black, I'm Team Blue, because of Tessarion. My prediction, 2 years' time, House of the Dragon Season 2, or a year and a half, whatever, people are going to be referring to Daeron as Team Blue. I think so. Yes, be toxic. I am indeed referring to Daeron Targaryen, Sir Ormond Squire, Rider of the Blue Queen Tessarion, wielder of vigilance, Daeron the Daring, and fantasy of every maiden in the Seven Kingdoms. The very same, played by Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill in his bravest role to date as a 16-year-old boy. Yeah, I'm not sure how they'll do Daeron's death, because victim of tense, Daeron's death is very deliberately underwhelming. It's very like real history, right? Like King Richard I, the Lionheart, who fought in the third crusade, all that stuff. Richard III was felled by a boy, like a teenage boy with a crossbow shot him while he was sieging a castle, and he fucking died. So it's very much a kind of badass, you know, Khal Drogo with the wound, right? Badass historical people dying in a very, you know, real, grounded, down-to-earth way. Yeah, it makes sense. I get it. It's frustrating, but like, yeah, Daeron just being crushed by a burning tent. But are they gonna have that in the show, or will it be too underwhelming? Will it be too much like, okay, come on, he needs, I don't know, you're doing him dirty with that kind of ending in the show. I don't, we'll have to see. Jacob Tremblay as Daeron. What else? Oh, Winter Wolves, yeah, fish feed. Daeron with the army. So I think Red Fork will happen off screen, because we don't need to see Red Fork. Fish feed is what we want to see. Red Fork will be off screen, and we'll hear, and by the way, the major deaths of Red Fork, so like Lord Frey, Lord Lannister, will be delayed to fish feed. So it'll be like, oh no, the Lannisters defeated us at Red Fork, and everyone will panic. Oh, we don't have any dragons on our side. Yeah, but then Red Rob Rivers the Blackwood Bastard will shoot down all the ravens going to Harrenhal, so Aemond can't interject. And then we'll have the big battle between the Lannisters and the Leffords, which will see Jason Lannister and Lord Humphrey Lefford die. And we'll see the death of like Lord Frey and several other lords, and maybe we'll see how do we think Jason's gonna die? Because in the book, he's killed by Pater of Longleaf with a spear, and it's a whole sort of random peasant kills this powerful lord, which I love. But then other people are saying they're gonna release lions onto the battlefield, but it'll backfire and a lion will eat Jason. It's fun. The whole Jason being eaten by his lions is a fun idea, but personally, I do prefer the idea of a random peasant with a pike stabbing him and being like, "Oh shit, Sir Pater of the Lion Slayer." Like I like that a lot. Maybe they'll have like, maybe they'll save that death for Humphrey. Maybe Humphrey gets eaten by lions and Jason gets stabbed, or maybe Jason's eaten by lions and Humphrey is stabbed by Pate, so they can have that callback. Yeah, Jason Lannister versus a billion lions. Yeah, who will win? So I think before we go to the super chats and just wrap up this spoiler section, how are they going to do the next season? What are we going to see? I think skip Red Fork, have Fish Feed, then Butcher's Ball will cap off the season. It won't be a big budget battle, it'll just be a massacre. Criston Cole has his death. Honey Wine will happen off screen or like for a few moments on screen. Gullet will be on screen. Fall of King's Landing will be on screen. Will we see first Tumbleton? I don't know. God's Eye we will see. We will see God's Eye. In fact, I think season 3, if they're ballsy enough to kill off Daemon and Aemond before season 4, it will end with God's Eye. Then season 4 you have the Tumbletons and Storming of the Dragon Pit, and then Rhaenyra's death and Aegon's ascension and the Moon of the Three Kings, which I'm so fucking hyped for. Trystane Truefire get hyped, the one true king of the Iron Throne. But yeah. Oh, one more thing before I wrap up. The God's Eye. The God's Eye. I don't want Daemon to live. I think the idea of Daemon surviving the battle above the God's Eye is lame. I think it's so lame. I don't like it. Thank you, Mr. Victor, who said your videos are great. Not a super chat, he's just being nice to me. Thank you so much. You're a legend. You're great. You're the great one. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Sorry, what was I talking about? Yes, Daemon. That's it. I don't want him to live. The idea of him secretly surviving. Ooh, he lives in the Vale. Lame, badass death. Don't rob him of that death. I like the whole his body went missing. Like, that's cute. But, yeah. I want Aemond and Daemon to both be killed. I will allow one thing, which is Daemon temporarily survives, crawls onto the Isle of Faces, surrounded by green men. Maybe he has, like, he touches a weirwood tree. Maybe he has one last vision, and it could be the future. It could be a vision of like just Viserys coming to sit down next to him and die with him. That could be nice. That could be cute. Something like that. I'm okay with that, but I don't want him surviving. I think it ruins that scene. It's the God's Eye scene is like written to be filmed. It's written to be like a movie scene or a TV scene or something. There's no way in hell. There's no way in hell they can fuck that up. I'm scared. I'm scared they might fuck it up. Yeah. But yeah, there we go. I think read off the remaining spoilery super chats and then wrap up, and then I'll tell you what videos I have planned for the future. I think I might give away. I've been keeping them secret. I'll give some of them away, I think. Give me a second. Bum ba bum 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 bum. Okay, no, okay, that's fine. Let's have a look. Okay, thank you for the super chat from first name last name, who says, thoughts on a political drama about the regency of Aegon III. I'm sad we're probably not going to see much of his banger moments in Hot D. Yeah, my prediction is we'll see Hour of the Wolf, and then we'll see Aegon III on the Iron Throne with Tyland as his hand and Jaehaera as his betrothed, and then it'll end. So the regency of Aegon III, I don't think they can really justify that. It's cool, but I think people have expectations from Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon that every Westeros show has to be big, and I think an Aegon III show would be too low-key, and I don't know. I mean, Knights of the Seven Kingdoms will also be low-key. It'll be the Duncan Egg novellas, and I think that will be people's introduction to more low-key A Song of Ice and Fire, and it'll be like, oh, this is awesome. This is a down-to-earth story. But But an Aegon the Third Regency show would probably keep the House of the Dragon title, and people will go in expecting something, and it'll be. I would like. Do I want to see it? I kind of do want to see it, but also, I don't know. I think the problem is the audience expects too much of a certain thing, and lots of Fire and Blood doesn't deliver on that. Specifically, Jaehaerys' reign and Aegon the Third's regency, but maybe. And finally, thank you for the super chat from KW Wildchild 1, thank you, who says, I think they'll end up combining a lot of battles next season. Only way I can see it working budget and plot-wise. Yeah. Red Fork and Fish Feed will be merged. Honeywine off-screen. Butcher's Ball will be cut down. I think we'll see... My thinking is we will see Gullet, Fall of King's Landing, Fish Feed in all their big budget glory. Maybe Battle of the God's Eye as a finale. But also, yeah, I don't know, if they're cutting if they've cut the two big moments to season 3, it's like that's going to cut into the budget automatically. So I don't know how they're going to do it budget wise, because obviously the new people in charge of HBO into cost cutting and all that stuff. So I don't know. It's weird to me that like they basically fucked over their own show, because yeah, it would have been expensive to film episode 9 and 10, but guess what? Maybe it's more expensive pissing off a bunch of fans by giving them a disappointing finale and making them wait 2 years for the next season and forcing a bunch of them to basically not care anymore, versus two badass final episodes and wanting them to come back. Like, goddamn, long-term investment in HBO Westeros verse is probably more profitable than cutting a couple of episodes in season 1. Like, come on, fucking I don't know what executives think sometimes. God's Eye will be last season. I mean, structurally, God's Eye would be a great finale for season 3, but also I don't know if they'll have the balls to kill off Daemon and Aemond before the final season. What are the seven The Song of Ice and Fire shows in the making? I don't know. I was there when he announced that, by the way. That was breaking news. I was at the Oxford... For those who don't know, I was at the Oxford Q&A with George R. R. Martin. And I literally said, when he was like, there are 7 shows in development, I turned to my friend, one of the patrons I met up with in Oxford, and I went, is that breaking news? Did we just get breaking news? And then when I got back to the hotel, I checked the internet, and it was like everywhere on Twitter and Reddit and so on. Like, people were like, 7 shows in development. I was like, what the fuck? I have no idea what they could be. Tales of Dunk and Egg live action, Yee animated, Sea Snake animated, Nymeria 1,000 Ships. Does House of the Dragon count as one? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much crossover there is with my live stream with Quinn and this, but I will say, I will say that, let me get the picture up, actually. See if I can find the picture. Let me find a picture. I met George R. R. Martin. For those who don't know, I went to the Oxford Q&A and I lined up in my Fantasy Haven shirt, and I walked up and George signed the first Game of Thrones book for me. A Game of Thrones that now has George's signature, which is fucking awesome. I love that so much. Yeah, let me see if I can't copy image and let the people see it. I said let the people see it. Hold on, are we having a Boomer Haven moment? We might be having a Boomer Haven moment. Alright, there we go. Hold on a sec, fellas. There we go, here's the picture. There we are. Beautiful. Full screen. Present. There we go. Is that even? It's just a blank screen, isn't it? Is it just a... Hold on, no, we got this. Don't worry. Wait, no. There we go. I've redeemed myself. There we are. Are we showing now? It's not Jova. It's not Jova. Trust me, it's not Jova. It should be up now. Boom, Boomerhaven had to quickly redeem himself. Thank you for the super chat from Cyrello, who says ideas on the Nymeria show. I guess it would just be sort of the Rhaenyra fleeing a bunch of fucking Dragon Lord slavers and settling in Dawn. I don't know if I care that much about it, honestly. Like, it's a cool story, but I don't like the whole sort of Westeros verse expanding everything. Like, I don't give a shit about a Yeti show. I want a fantasy series based on. I want a TV adaptation based on a fantasy series that's inspired by East Asian mythology and culture and history, but I want it to be something that's fleshed out. I don't want it to be a page from A World of Ice and Fire. Find another author, find another story, for that kind of thing. There we go. Yes, this is me with George. I tell you what happened. It's very dramatic. I walked up with the Game of Thrones. I put it down, and this is what I was going to say, for those who haven't heard this story. I was going to say, hi, George, I love you. I actually run a YouTube channel where I animate lots of your lore and your books and stuff. Thanks so much. That's what I wanted to say. What happened is that I walked up and he was busy talking to his assistant. And so I awkwardly stood there because I didn't want to interrupt him. And I quickly fitted in the words, love you, George. And then he handed me back the book without making eye contact. And then I was ushered away by his assistant. So I don't think he even looked at me, which is a real shame. So that was kind of lame. But I got to see him in person. I had fun meeting my patrons in Oxford. I took my Polish patron to Nando's to show him what a great restaurant Nando's is. He gave it the thumbs up. And yeah, and I it was awesome getting to see him, and I've got a couple of signed books. So that was lots of fun. And I think yes. Oh, I was trying to remember. I was like, hold on, what's the punchline to this story? I remember the punchline. So my friend, patron of mine, Boomler, after I did this, he walked straight up to George R. R. Martin, and he said, "Hi, I'm from Poland, and my favorite character is Hyle Hunt." And George just stared at him and like pogged. He was just like, "What?" He said it as a troll. He was like, my favorite character is Hyle Hunt from A Feast for Crows. So somehow George got attention from George. He got George to look at him in the eyes and laugh and speak. And for me, he just ignored me, which is a shame. But I should have just interrupted him talking to his assistant. I should have been like, hi, what's up? You're awesome. Because, But by the way, there were like 200 people and I was at the very end of the queue, and he's an old man and he must have been tired signing so many books. So I don't blame him at all. What is that super chat? For fuck's sake. What a stupid super chat. Yeah, no, I will not say that word, but thanks for giving me money. Yeah. Yeah, people roasting the blue socks. Every fucking time I show this picture on Twitter and YouTube, it's always the blue sock. What's wrong with blue socks? You're just mad because I got drip. You're mad because I got drip. Bum. There were rumors Aegon was going to be a fuck up and his sisters were going to be real conquerors. So the Aegon the Conqueror... Oh, that's one I forgot to mention, the Aegon the Conquest show. That was an early draft. So back in like the later seasons of Game of Thrones, they planned Hot D and planned Aegon's Conquest and Blackfyre and this stuff. Blackfyre got scrapped. Hot D Conquest got put on the back burner because, yeah, apparently one of the plans was going to be... excuse me for a second. The writer for that had the idea of Aegon being a drunken lout and a thug, and his sister wives were going to be the true brains behind the invasion of Westeros, which is just stupid, subversive, sexist shit, and I'm glad that they didn't do it. The new showrunner is the guy who wrote the Batman film, which is pretty good, so I'm looking forward to the Conquest movie / show, whatever, from him. I'll be wrapping up soon, don't worry everyone. It's nearly 2 a.m. Nice rucksack, thank you. It wasn't mine, I was holding it for someone else. To say nothing of the theories Aegon was sterile. I actually love that theory, personally. The theory that Aegon was sterile and like couldn't have kids, Aenys Targaryen, also known as Rhaenys Targaryen, is the bastard son of Rhaenys and a random handsome bard. and Maegor is like a test tube magic baby. It's so fun to me. I love the idea that none of the Targaryens are actually descended from the Conqueror. Did she hit you with the fan? Just to clarify, because lots of people have commented on this picture being like, why is there a woman fanning George? She's fanning herself. The photo makes it look like she's fanning George. She's not. He doesn't have like a young woman fanning him everywhere he goes. Trust me. Socks be drip now. I'm just insecure. I have to call it drip because everyone's roasting my taste in socks. I just own a bunch of colourful socks. What's wrong with owning some colourful socks? Fantasy Raven. The black shirt was my Haven shirt. It was like the Fancy Haven logo. I think it looks good with black. Oh, seamless plug. FancyHavenmerch.com. Links in the description. If you want to buy t-shirts, hoodies, mugs with Fancy Haven stuff to help support the channel, it's really awesome. Go get it if you want. I also have a Patreon. Someone asked earlier about membership. I don't have membership. I think Quinn the GM, Quinn might have YouTube membership. I don't, but I do have a Patreon. I might get YouTube membership sometime soon. Why do you have a rat tail on your hair? I've got a little duck. Okay, I prefer the term duck tail, not rat tail. My goodness. It's just I haven't had a haircut in a while. That's why. Aegon is Immaculate Conception. I'm telling you right now, the Maegor is Jesus theory that my patron came up with, that will be, I'm releasing that at some point. I've got to respect the theory. I think... You know what? I think it's time to wrap it up. Yeah, I'll read the last 2 super chats and I'll wrap up. This is the closest you're getting to a Haven face reveal. You're getting back of head reveal. For those curious about my height, I am in fact 6'5". So there we go, as you can see from that picture. Give or take an entire foot. Thank you for the super chat from Kelly Johnson, who says, Daemon neutered, Alicent wants to go smoke dope in the woods, endless Rhaena running in the Vale scenes, character butchered, terrible episode. I thought it was a mixed bag episode. I was like, I think as an episode in a vacuum, as an episode 8 of a 10 episode season, I think it's fairly good, with a few rubbish scenes. As a finale, it sucked. Alicent smoking dope in the woods, that was last episode. But yeah, Alicent is wasted and character assassination this episode. Daemon neutered, I disagree. I think he had an interesting arc. Endless Rhaena running in the Vale. Yeah, stupid. Characters butchered. I would only say Alicent was butchered. I won't go that far about the others. Thank you for the super chat from Matto Scum, who says, thanks for keeping me entertained while making dinner at 3 a.m. First off, why are you making dinner at 3 a.m., you madman? You must be a uni student. But yeah, no worries. I'm glad to keep you entertained. I'm glad so many people watch these live streams. These live streams have kicked off. All of my prediction streams and episode streams and so on, with both on my channel and Quinn's channel, are getting like 10k views, like once it's uploaded. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so humbled by that. People don't usually, I get lots of views on my regular videos, live streams less so. So it's really cool that people are interested in watching our stuff. Really cool. Rhaena kind of forgot about the mountain tribes. Imagine season 3 opens with mountain clansmen just fucking murdering her. Speaking of mountain clansmen, History of House Arryn animated video on my channel if you haven't checked it out. That's enough shilling. I want to go to bed because it's nearly 2 a.m, but like I also want to stay and read everyone's whatever. But yeah, will you ever get a face reveal? Maybe like 100k subs could be a fun face reveal. I do want to... Okay, you know what? This is what I'll do. Before I wrap up, and I keep saying that, but genuinely, before I wrap up, here are my plans for the future. Are you ready? No one will know apart from my patrons who already know this. But Hot D is over. Episode 7 and 8 live streams. 7 and 8 review. The quickie, longy coming out tomorrow, hopefully. Then I'm going to take a break. And then there are 3 videos I want to do. 1, I want to tear apart shitty clickbait A Song of Ice and Fire channels. The ones who take one sentence and then turn it into 10-minute videos, breaking news announcement, all that bullshit, disgusting stuff. And channels that like make fake trailers and pretend they're real, or like repost next time trailers but like post shitty AI thumbnails to trick people into all that stuff. I want to tear into that. Someone saying don't do it, not worth it. I just feel like I want to like make a stand and be like, this is shitty content that's a stain on the Song of Ice and Fire community. I don't think it would be drama because they're not like mainstream. Because there are, you know, Song of Ice and Fire YouTubers that personally I don't like, but like I haven't got an issue with their content. You know, they make good, people make good content, or maybe they don't make great content, but they're nice people, right? But when it's like trashy corporate clickbait shit that's just manipulative and lying, maybe I'll go after them. That's one of the videos. Another video is maybe a 50k special where I'll be in my kitchen in my Fantasy Haven merch, wearing a Fantasy Haven mask, and I'll be making recipes from the A Song of Ice and Fire cookbook. That's my plan. The meme cookbook when everyone was like, a fucking cookbook is releasing but not Winds of Winter. So I want to make some recipes from that. There might be a bit of ADHD chaos in that video, but I think that would be really fun. That would be like a fun, chill video. Yeah, me in a big-ass Haven mask. And then the third video, of course, will be an epic 25-hour-long live stream with Alt Shift X and Glidus. That's not true. That's a lie. No, what the third video will be... Oh, should I say it? Should I tease it or say it? I feel like I need to build it up more. Should I? My patrons know. Okay, I'll say it. I can't keep secrets for long. The big video I'll be working on after Hot D is every Frey explained. The video I've been teasing for over a year, every Frey explained, will be the next big animated video I work on. Or I might do a shorter one, like a shorter animated video as like a stopgap, like financially, pay rent and bills and stuff. Then I can take some time off with every Frey explained. So there we go. I had to reveal it. People have been waiting for ages, and I literally wrote the script last year, like a year ago this month, maybe even. And it was 25 pages, and then I edited it down to 20. Just to bear in mind, what was the recent... my Aaron video was 6.5 pages. 6.5 pages, and that was 19 minutes or so. So every Frey explained could be like nearly an hour long. So I'll have to take a lot of time doing the art, animating it. Maybe it'll take several months. Maybe I'll work on it a bit and then retire and go back to it. But at the very least, I will start it. It won't include historical phrase, no, because if I do that, then I'm just kind of repeating my House Frey video with Quinn the GM, right? A little collab. But it will be every single Frey in A Song of Ice and Fire. And by the way, there are over 100. Every single one. The children, the grandchildren, the ones you haven't heard of. Aegon Bloodborne Frey, who's an outlaw. You've never heard of him, right? Bassario of Bravos, the singer. The mother of... the son of Simon Frey and Bassario Bravos, who's a singer you've never heard of. One of the Freys, I can't remember his name, but like he's an alchemist in Lys. One of them's a maester, one of them's a member of the Most Devout. I'm diving into every single one. Every single Frey. Okay, I think I've jerked myself off enough talking about every Frey explained. I've done everything I've done everything to like not end this live stream because I'm having so much fun interacting with you. And the reason I don't usually do live streams this late is because, 2 a.m, right? I tend to do my live streams in the evening British time, UK time. But doing it later has led to more views, and also I've been able to interact with more of my American viewers, who usually it's too early in the day when I do it. Anyway, I'm going to actually shut the fuck up and end this live stream. So the final super chat is, do you think Rhaena will be guilty post-Gullet about Jace, Viserys and Aegon? Oh, yes, maybe. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, if Aegon and Viserys, ship off without her, because she went missing. That would be bizarre. I don't know what they're going to do about that, but I don't even know how they're going to do the whole Aegon thing, because like his dragon's too small for him to ride it back to safety. So I'm not entirely sure how they're going to do the whole Viserys Aegon part of the gullet, but we'll have to see. Someone in the chat saying that David Lightbringer talks over his guests. I mean, I'm no one to talk. I talk over Quinn sometimes. I hog the mic a bit too much. It's a bit of a bit of an ADHD moment. Yeah, okay. People are now arguing about YouTubers in the chat. I'm not interested in beef. I'm not interested in beef with anything or anyone, unless they're like shitty clickbait YouTubers, in which case I might have something to say about them in a video, but I don't want any beef with anyone else because that's kind of lame and drama queeny. So I think I'm going to end the stream now because as much as I'm having fun, I'm tired as fuck. So farewell. I love you all. Goodbye, Haven Horde. Is that going to stick? Is that a thing? Haven Horde? Is that any good? Is that cool? Is it lame? I don't know. Who cares? Okay.